And here we go, and there you are, and we are
Hello,
That's a
underway.
great
everybody.
opening. I love that opening.
We get that a lot. I think it's too long personally, but a lot of people are like, "No, we love that." But
Good opening.
it was David Eon and Lady Pop Partner here in the Open by Chance Vintage Toy Museum, and special guest today, Daniel from Arkham Comics, who has been with us before.
Yes.
And of course, when we are talking about something very comic book related, and in particular today, talking about grading services. And I wanted to talk to Daniel specifically because he made some predictions some years ago, very publicly, and on YouTube. And it seems like that's coming to fruition in the comic book grading market. And I thought that would be interesting for a topic of discussion. How are you doing down 3 hours behind us or ahead of us? 3 hours behind us.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
3
they-
hours behind you. So
3 hours
it's 3
behind
o'clock.
us.
It's 4 o'clock here, 7 o'clock where you are. And you might hear some noise in the background because my wife's a bartender in a casino and she's getting ready for work. So
Oh.
you might hear some. That's
Okay.
okay.
Okay. Oh, go ahead.
So no, I just wanted to say tell everybody how you've been doing because we haven't seen you in a while. You don't have to tell all your personal. Where have you been?
I took about a year off. I had a lot of stuff going on, personal life as it relates to my health, and like I said, I have PTSD, and I went through a real hard streak, and I had to just try to step back and refocus on me. I've been back for a few months now making videos, and a lot of my viewers were real happy that I came back. But sometimes you just have to try to step away from something and just kind of I always tell my viewers, sometimes life happens, and when life happens, you just gotta, take care of that. And that's, what we did. And so I feel, 100% great and back on the horse, but I've, changed the way I collect certain things now. I've expanded. I've always collected little things, but, I've kind of spread it out now, not just comic books, because of the current market. That was kind of frustrating for me, with speculators and people with the books and the grading up and down. And it was just like, step back. It's like a tsunami. Let the tsunami go by. And once the water clears again, you come back in. And, because like with anything, whether it's, cards, toys, it's like a roller coaster. It's up and down, up and down. And you're going to have the hardcore collectors who are the fans who collect, and you're going to have the people who want to make the quick buck. And we went to a stage where it was all about the quick buck. And the true collector just kind of got brushed aside. And now that everything's focused up now, those speculators have gone to other things, avenues. Cards, Pokemon cards, sports cards are the new fast money. And there is fast money. It was like during the pandemic where you could sell anything at that time because everybody had, for the most part, extra money from the government that they were getting for businesses shut down. And you probably saw that in your industry. People would just buy anything. You put something up on eBay and it's going to sell. And that went down. And people lost a lot of money on that. People are losing a lot of money on comics. Comics that were selling for $8,000, $10,000 are now selling for less than half of that. And so people just kind of, I'm going to shift to something else now and put my money in that. And it's good, but it's better for the people who are, like you. You guys are hardcore collectors. You like what you like. I like what I like. And now I'm, focused back up on that. But I've kind of changed the view of things, the way I do things, just because I got to do it for me, just to have fun. Yeah. So that's what I do.
And, speculative buying, it's foolish anyway, but it really hurts things. Like every time, so-and-so is going to be in such and such TV show or something like that.
Or a movie.
And then they jump all over it, like She-Hulk. And I saw graded She-Hulks go through the roof. And I bought, after it crashed and burned, I got a 9.6 for like $42.
Yeah, that's what you do.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I see that here. I mean, when I collected a lot of stuff in the 80s, when like Valiant was coming out and Dark Horse, and everybody wanted those because the previews was saying these are the hot books. These are the hot books.
Oh, yeah.
I was picking up vintage for nothing. because no one would buy vintage. You could buy long boxes of nice Silver Age books, and $50. Here's this, because everybody, all their money was going on hologram covers and just Turok. They came out with that hologram cover that everybody wanted that stuff, and they thought, I'm going to sell my house and this is going to be my home, my retirement, and then that book is 10 cents on a 10-cent box.
Yeah.
Like I said, though, it's been that way with everything. Real estate goes up and down as it relates to interest rates, and so investors in the real estate take a step back and focus their money on other things. Toys, depending on what it is, but comics and cards are the two main big ones. Records, but I think the big focus for a lot of people that try to make the fast money is comics and non-sport and sports cards. We were talking earlier.
The sports cards even more so, because that's really kind of where it started. And I was on the ground floor of that way back in the late 80s. And I just did a video talking about this the other day. Some people got what I was talking about, some didn't. You know how it is.
Sure.
But in the late 80s, we went from like 3 or 4 companies making sports cards to like in 1987. And then in 1988, there was like 70 companies out of nowhere.
Sure.
And that's why I said, pick up a Beckett's guide, Beckett's baseball or football guide or something. That much of it will be like 1915 to 1987. And then the rest of the guide is all modern. and even then, I saw so many card shops go out of business because they didn't know what to buy. And they were buying cases and cases and cases of stuff. And all anybody wanted was chases, holograms, autographs, foil cards. And I showed it in the video. The one that started it all, that awful Wayne Gretzky upper deck card from like 90, I forget. And it looks horrible. You can't even tell what's going on in that card. And they were killing each other for that card. You couldn't buy 5 cases of hockey cards and find that thing. And now it's worthless.
It's like the big chase for. I mean, I collected baseball cards I collected my whole life basically, but it used to be Topps. You would go and you buy a pack of Topps cards, and Topps did a lot of the non-sports. Star Wars, Charlie's Angels, all that was all Topps. Topps was the card company. In the 30s, you had Goudy Gum. You had other little ones, of course, the old cigarette tobacco cards. But in 1981, I walked into a store where I used to buy my cards, and I saw Topps, Fleer, and Dunross. And it was 3 different card companies releasing baseball cards. And you're like, okay, what's going to happen? And like you said, around 88, it exploded. And there were card shops, multiple card shops. And there was a baseball card convention in every little church or VFW, or the one in San Diego I went to, a Scottish Rite every Friday, where I would sell baseball cards and just make a killing. And then when the just overstocked it, when you flood the market, what they call the junk wax era, the cards dropped and then they became worthless and people got away from it. And now they're making these special cards like jersey pieces, autograph cards, and the prices are just ridiculous. They have. I was watching on a video on the National Baseball Card Convention. And there's packs of cards that have 5 cards that's $2,000.
Oh, wow.
Why would you spend $2,000 for 5 cards? I mean, and
get lucky.
It was baseball. That's what everybody wanted, baseball back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And then, because you could buy, I remember I bought a case of 86, 87 Fleer basketball, 20 boxes in a case. And I bought it at a convention at that time for like $80 because you couldn't get rid of it. Those boxes now go for, $4,000 or $5,000. But you wouldn't know that because no one was collecting basketball then. No one was collecting hockey or basketball or, football. It was baseball. And then football took over a little bit. But, like I said, we're going through that industry right now with comics and grading, which is, it's been flooded so much that now people are like, wait, I'm not making money. And they're stepping away. And that's a frustration for a lot of people. And the things that I was saying 14 years ago, people are realizing, you noticed that 14 years ago. I did notice it because I saw it with other things.
Mm-hmm.
I saw it with cards. And I was like, the cards are just like comics. If you flood the market and everybody jumps on the bandwagon, it's like the death of Superman. Every comic book collection you look at has Death of Superman.
Yeah.
When that book came out in, what was it, 92, 93, the lines were around the block at comic shops trying to get that book.
That's
Because
right.
everybody thought it's going to be like an Action Comics #1. And I didn't buy it because I was like, I told people there's going to be 25 million copies of that book because everybody's selling it. They were doing news articles and it's in Time Magazine and, you know, the death of Superman, the great hero is dead. No, he's not. It's just going to come up in another multiverse. But non-collectors or non-fans didn't know that.
Yeah.
Sure enough, when he died, there he was again on another action-packed Superman story in your comic book that you were buying hundreds of copies of because that was going to be your big money. You find everywhere. You know, it's like a $3 or $4 book, and there's literally millions of those books out there. And so that's what hurts the industry. And it's just like any big business. Marvel, DC knows that something's hot. They overprint. I mean, back in the day, Sergeant Rock had one copy. Batman had one cover. Detective Comics had one cover. Now, Detective Comics, if a big book comes out, has 10 covers. Then you have the 1 in 5, the 1 in 25, the 1 in 50, the 1 in 100. When does it stop? It stops when people stop buying. And we're seeing that more shops are closing. We talked about CBCS, getting away from the comics because the money's not there anymore. When the money pot dries up, you got to go somewhere else because you're not going to just throw your money down a well. And that's what's happening right now to a lot of people. A lot of money went into this stuff. A lot of money was lost, and they're like, okay, how do I cut my losses now? That's what happens.
And it's spread to a lot of other industries as well. I mean, it really kind of started with cards, and it found its way into comic books, and then all media, video games, all types, DVDs, Blu-rays. They're doing manga books now, pulp. They'll do pulp magazines, vinyl records,
tape,
cassette tapes. That's right. They're doing cassette tapes, and they're trying to push their way into the toy market as well with the grading of the toys. Although a lot of toy collectors, they don't care for that too much because it's really questionable, the practices of the grading in that area.
I mean, I called that when it was like they were all the grading with the comics, and I made a video probably in 2013, and I said the next thing you're going to see is they're going to start grading VHS tapes, cassette tapes, just whatever they can grade, and they'll start grading that stuff. Oh no, they won't. It'll never happen like that. It's just comics and cards. And sure enough, it happened. Video games. You grade a video game. You can't play it. So I have a video game on my shelf that I paid $100 to get graded, but I can't use it.
Yeah.
I mean, I have some books graded, but I it's stuff that means something to me. Blitzkrieg, we talked about that last time. That was the book that got me started collecting in the 70s was Blitzkrieg. And I was able to find a #1 and a 9.8, and I have that graded. But I have like 15 copies of Blitzkrieg that I can read when I want to read it. But that's just something that's a memory for me. It wasn't a money thing. I don't care what my books are worth. I never go into something saying, oh, that book is worth so much money. I don't care about that. I care about, now at this stage, I mean, I'm 59 years old. You look at it, realistically, if you have another maybe 29 years or 20 years left, 25 years left, I want something around me that's going to give me, happy memories and things like that. And that's what I have. The toys that I have are things that I like. I just finished a Killer Clowns collection because I'm not seeing the dollar signs. And I never saw the dollar signs, even when I was doing shows. That's why my books were priced right. Back in the day, you went to a baseball card show, people were selling baseball cards half of what the Beckett had it listed for. If Beckett said $20, you can pick it up for $10. Now, if you see something for $20, they want $30 for it. They want more for it. Because you used to be able to buy stuff, the cards basically at 88% of what the value is on a hot card. Now, the thing in Chicago, the big argument was things that people were selling for 88% of value to dealers, they now want 110, 115% of value because they want to make more money than what the dealer's going to get. And that's the big deal. And that's the beginning of the end. That's when it starts to fall. because you're pricing out young collectors with the amount of money it costs to do things. You know, our generation, because we're around the same age, we remember the 70s and 80s, and it brings back good memories, whether it's the toys or the cards, the books, the TV shows like that. But the kids don't understand that. You know, I mean, I love Planet of the Apes.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the TV show. I don't like the new ones. I like the stuff from the 60s and the TV show from 76. And I was wearing a t-shirt, Planet of the Apes t-shirt. And it has, you know, the beginning of remember the show, the 3 gorillas on the hill and the one in the middle holding up the rifle.
Oh, that's my favorite picture.
That's my favorite. That's how it started. The guy just he picks the rifle up. As a kid, I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. So I have a shirt that has that. And I had someone come up to me and call me a racist because he said that was a metaphor for a certain race of people. And I'm like, this is a TV show, but it's got an ape on it. It's called Planet of the Apes. It's a TV show. So when I did my movie thing, I specifically showed the television collection of Planet of the Apes to show people there really was a show called Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not being mean. I'm just, it's a show. I like it, you know, but see, just the younger generation doesn't understand that. And that's what's going to stop the collecting industry. And it's all that's going to be left are the real collectors.
Yeah.
And that's going to hurt shops and the business.
Yeah, they had a Saturday morning cartoon at the same time.
Yeah, I love
that was a really good cartoon.
I'm a monster. I'm a monster with 70s and early 80s. I was a kid, you know. I mean, 76, I was 9 years old. It was all about Little League on Saturdays, getting the pizzeria at the snack bar, and then running to the 7-Eleven for either baseball cards at 10 cents a pack, comic books at a quarter, the collector Slurpee cups. I collected it all. You know, my mother was on public assistance. I didn't get a lot of money, but I got my $2-3 on a Saturday. And back then, that's, you know, that's 5-6 comic books, Slurpee, some cards. You're living fat, you know. $3 now gets you walked out of the store. They don't want that. Get out of here. No one wants your $3. Ain't gonna make no money.
Yeah, and it's like they, with everybody looking at it, or most people looking at it in terms of just potential financial value, and it really at this point almost looks like there's no redemption for the card industry at all, especially when you've got Pinkertons coming to your house because you got a case early. You remember that story from like a year ago?
Yeah, like
you sent Pinkerton thugs to someone's home to shake them down for a box of cards because it was delivered a week ahead of schedule. Something's wrong, and you kind of see that, especially with modern comics. Not so much with the vintage, but I know you had mentioned, for example, earlier before we got started here, Hulk 181.
Yes.
And you can't hardly find one that isn't graded. And, you know, I do cleaning and pressing for people sometimes. I can't tell you how many times I've done that book for someone. And you're finding that, again, there's resistance in it, but you're seeing that in the toy market also. She had a figure she got just recently, which was the original
King
Randor from Masters of the Universe line on the card.
Okay.
And it was the first time in years we'd seen one at a convention that wasn't graded.
Yeah.
It wasn't sealed.
Well, you talk about that stuff with the toys and everything. I mean, you talked about the Hulk 181. Okay, one of the books that no one was really looking for was, you know, Werewolf by Night 32, First Moon Knight. As soon as they started announcing, you know, a Moon Knight, they're all coming out of the woodworks. A book that you could pick up for, you know, $5 went up to, you know, $1,500, $2,000.
Yeah. And
it's fallen back around a little bit because the Moon Knight TV show was terrible. People look at it. I mean, if the show's good, people are going to jump all over it. I mean, back in the day, and you know this, in the 80s, it was X-Men, Avengers, Batman. Those were the 3 big ones. Everybody wanted that. And then everything just, you know, Daredevil, Wonder Woman, those were just kind of specialty collectors. And those books were still, well, as far as Daredevil, those Daredevil books were underpriced for a long time. because they didn't have a whole lot of Daredevil stuff. You didn't see Daredevil cartoons. You didn't see it. You saw Batman cartoons, X-Men cartoons, Avengers cartoons, but you didn't see a lot of Daredevil stuff on the TV show. In '76, of course, they had the Wonder Woman TV show, and there was a little bit of a bump where, you know, girls were like, "Oh, I want to collect Wonder Woman comics because, you know, she's a girl and she's strong and powerful," which is great. And it was, you know, what's her name? Linda
Carter.
Linda Carter. I mean, you got a good Wonder Woman right there. And so everything just kind of goes when it gets popular, because people sit back and say, "Oh, okay, there's a Moon Knight movie coming out." Everybody goes out and tries to find this stuff. Or like these movies now, there's a rumor that this character is going to be in this movie. And so everybody, like the Spider-Man, the new Spider-Man movie, the multiverse, I guess there was a character that they had like little tiny cameos on. Those books are starting to spike because people think, "Oh, well, they showed him. Now I'm going to go and get him before he goes into his own movie or gets his own movie." But some of these movies are bad. I don't, you know, Supergirl, I didn't think, you know, lived up to the potential that it had. So I don't know. I mean,
and thank you, Logic Blaster. I just wanted to call you out there. We appreciate that, helping us out.
Like that.
The I had a prediction about the Supergirl movie too, was that Lobo was just a hook and that you probably hardly see him in it.
Yeah. I mean, that they have like the movie that comes out today, Ice Cream Man. They're saying that it has, the movie Ice Cream Man comes out today by Eli Roth.
That a remake from the one from the 80s, 70s or 80s?
It's not, because if people sit there. I had a friend who went and saw. He lives in LA, and he got an early preview of the movie, and he said, "You know what? The movie is like a Terrifier. If you put the two together, Terrifier is a G-rated movie compared to what they show in Ice Cream Man." And they'll say it has nothing to do with the comic book, but there's a lot of comic book catches on that with the Ice Cream Man. So Eli Roth may not have written it based solely on the comic book, but it does have comic book stuff. And, you know, they'll say, I talked about this on my last video where they're saying, "Oh, they say it's not that good." I never listen to reviewers and movie critics, because some of the movies I love, I can watch 1,000 times, or things that just got panned, you know, in the press. They're saying it's either 50-50 on this. You either love it or you hate it. This is going to be something that horror fans like the real graphic, gory movies, like a Terrifier. Terrifier got popular because of Art the Clown. And so this is just it's a creepy movie, kind of like a Children of the Corn, but a more violent version of Children of the Corn. And so I love it. I can't wait to see it. My wife and I are going next Wednesday, because, you know, that's our next day off together.
Date night. Can't argue with that.
Nope.
Now, with the grading, and I wanted to go back to that because we were again before we were on, we were talking about it a little bit. There is the CBCS. CBCS putting a chain on the door, and that these grading companies, regardless of what they say, the bottom line is the bottom dollar.
Yes.
It's really not. And this is what you were talking about with grading standards. And CBCS going out of business, as far as comic books, kind of proves that, because of why it's happening. Because you have Collectors Holdings Incorporated, which owns Beckett, which owns PSA, and they bought CBCS basically to eliminate competition. They had 4 choices: CGC, which is too big, and it's owned by BlackRock, so it's not going anywhere.
You're not going anywhere with BlackRock.
PGX, and nobody gives a shit about PGX, so it doesn't matter. And then EGC, and most people don't even know they exist. So what's your option? We'll take out number 2. Well, it's completely a business decision. It's a common business practice to try to eliminate competition by buying them out. YouTube's done it a few times. When a platform started getting close. And that kind of demonstrates that it's like, oh, we don't really care about doing good service. We're just going to eliminate someone else's and try to absorb some of that business.
That's big business right there. And there's a great line that I use for businesses that things like Amazon, when they're getting real big, especially during the pandemic, were just steamrolling businesses. And if you saw a movie called Grosse Point Blank, the character sits there and says, they ask him, what have you been doing? He's like, I've been living life with a lead pipe cruelty. And that's what big business does. It's a lead pipe cruelty. You talked about, companies buying each other out. You want to eliminate your competition. Now, when all these grading companies came out, I bought a couple of PGX books when it came out just to crack them open and grade them myself to see how close they were to my grading standard. And books that they were calling a 9, I was grading a 6.5. So I knew their grading standards was terrible. Yeah. Their grading standards were terrible. CGC was real good at the beginning, but they kept preaching that we're not doing this for money. We're an independent third party that just wants to help the industry with good, fair grading. Well, don't charge the exorbitant rates that you're doing. You don't go into a business not to make money. I don't know anybody opens up a business says, oh, I'm not here to make any money. I don't care. And so they were real close to it. CBCS was really good. They were real close to my grading standards. But my grading standards are real tough anyways. That's where I got my original reputation, was my grading ability. And I was like, okay, but then as CGC got bigger and they were the big dog, you saw their grading standards drop. And then you start going to the bigger booths, whether it's Mile High Metropolis or the companies that are sending in hundreds and hundreds of books a month. And you're seeing, well, they got a 9.6 on this book, but I can see 8 defects on it right away. And this little seller over here got a 9.2, and his book is stronger than this book. Why did this guy get the 9.6 and this guy get the 9.2? Because they're going to cater to the money.
Yeah.
Businesses always cater to the money in anything in life. I work in Las Vegas. I work in a casino. I've seen over the years that, people who have what they call the whales, the big gamblers, get away with a lot than what I could get away with. If I, threw stuff on a table, I'd be walked out. If a big guy does it, they give him a break because he's a big spender. He spends money. These companies are the same way. If you're going to spend big money with me on a contract and I'm going to get 500 books a month from you, which is big money for my company, yeah, I'm going to be a little lenient on there. I'm going to buffer a couple of grades for you and allow you to make money. You're going to make money. So it's just one of those things. And that's what's happening. That's what hurt the industry, because now people are seeing that.
Yeah.
And you hear that if you're walking around, that they're getting, these grades this book isn't what it's graded. And that kind of frustrated people because they're not getting the same grades as the bigger people. And ultimately that hurts the industry and people stop doing that. CBCS lost business because they couldn't compete with the CGC because everybody believes that CGC is the king of the mountain. And they were the original orientator, and they're going to be the king of the mountain. That's just the way it is in life. But, sitting there to tell everybody we're stepping away from it to focus our business model. Your business model, once you start making money at one thing, you change your business model to start making money. They went into cards like they saw PSA, who owns, where they went into business with. And it's been like that since the beginning of time. If I'm not making money this way, I'm going to make money this way. You take away liquor, you have prohibition, you have gangsters making millions of dollars because they were getting the liquor. When that stopped, they stopped doing liquor. Things stop when people don't want it.
Yeah.
And so when you see people saying, I'll get everything graded, let's grade all this stuff. Now, pretty soon, it's going to be like, remember the pet rock in the 70s? This guy put a rock in a box, called it a pet rock. It got hot. And for about 6 months, he sold millions of units of just a rock. Because he lived by a rock quarry, and they just had the rocks. We threw it in a box. Here's your pet rock. And people spent money on it. He made a fortune on it. People will buy anything. And once it gets hot, everybody tries to jump on it.
Yeah.
I remember we did a collaboration when CGC released their grading book.
Oh,
and how frustrated you were with that. My favorite,
I got it right there, and I just talked about that on my video.
My favorite thing about the grading book is saying that odors don't count.
Odors?
Yes,
Odors,
Like
don't-
right?
smoke and stuff? Oh.
Yeah, the hell it does. Because if a book smells like mold, I'm not buying it.
You're not
So,
buying
you know,
it.
the odors absolutely matter.
You know, the first thing, if a person who really does it, who knows collecting, knows grading, the first thing I do with an old book is I open it and I smell it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is it in a smoker's house? Does it smell like the paper is going to deteriorate? Because remember, comics back in the day was cheap paper.
Mm-hmm.
You paid 10 cents for a comic book. Mommy get, quiet the kid, get a book he can just stuff in his pocket. It wasn't meant to be collected. But don't tell me that odor doesn't matter. They're talking about, they always had this thing about subscription crease.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're saying, well, there's different levels of subscription crease. Either it's creased or it's not.
Yeah.
I understand some creases are harder than others, but a subscription crease is a subscription crease. Don't tell me, well, this one's a little bit lighter, so we're not going to dig it on that one. The thing I hate is the big stamps on the cover of the book that bookstores used to put on there. Oh,
Yeah.
that doesn't matter. And I had a book from World War II that had a buy war bond sticker on the cover. And the guy was like, you can have it super cheap because it's got a big sticker on it. And I talked to a guy who had a big company, and I said, why would they gig this? This is historical. This is a World War II era book that's asking you to buy war bonds for the war effort.
Mm-hmm.
That was just the way it was back then. That shouldn't be a defect. And sure enough, a couple months later, someone did an article, and now that does the war bond stuff does not hinder the book. You have a war bond sticker on your book. That is now desirable for them. Just like people, the pedigrees. Why is this a pedigree? See the little tiny G and pen on the back of the book? That's a pedigree. Really? That's either it's a mess up or it's not. It's a defect or it's not a defect. They talk about altered books. Well, this book has been altered. Okay, but if I press it and I clean it and I do the water thing that they do to try to level out the pages and I fix the spine roll, have I not altered that book? That book is altered now from the original condition. It has been redone.
Mm-hmm.
And they're saying, oh, no, that's okay. Well, what's the difference? There shouldn't be a difference. It's either an alteration and the problem with grading is companies will see things differently. And CGC hem-haws on stuff like that. The argument has always been Hulk 181 or Hulk 180. What is the first appearance of the Wolverine? I always said it was 180. And people laughed at me. What does a first appearance need? And they're like, you got to see the character and he has to say something. Well, the back of 180, it says, I'm the Wolverine.
Yeah, he names himself. That's right.
First appearance.
No.
But some big dealer was like, no, this is the original first appearance because he's on the cover. That's the first appearance of the Wolverine. And they went into that. Now there's rumblings that they're going to say 180 is going to be the first appearance. But they're afraid because if they say 180 is the first appearance, what about all those people who spent the money thinking that 181 was from CGC? If CGC now says, well, no, actually 180 is now the first appearance. It becomes a money grab.
I saw something a couple of years back. It said you had to have a full page to be a first appearance. I think it was like a full page or something, not just like a block.
I don't know the back cover of the 181 too well, but I'm pretty sure it's a pretty big Wolverine. He's like walking into the screen. He's got his claws out. I'm Wolverine. No. And to me, that's a first appearance. I mean, it's like they pull something out of a hat and say, okay, this is what we're going to say the first appearance is. This is what this is. This defect is no good. But a year from now, when people complain about it, well, okay, we won't take that away now. Subscription crease has always been like that because they sat there and say, the stamps are okay because that was the way it was done in the 60s and 70s at the newsstands, where they would stamp the date on it so they can send it back and get their money back. But a subscription crease isn't. Why? That's how it was done in the 70s. You see those advertisements in the old comic books saying, buy 12 issues of Amazing Spider-Man get an issue every month for $3 or $2.75. Well, how did they do it? They took it, they folded it in half, put it in an envelope, and mailed it to you. If that was the way it said, if a timestamp is okay, if a stamp is okay on the book, why wouldn't a subscription increase be okay? It just depends on what the bigger sellers do. It's not what the little guy thinks. It's what the $1 million comic book companies believe.
Yeah.
And I believe that. And I've been saying that for years. They will adjust it. Well, I think I told this story. I talked to somebody when CGC was getting ready to announce their grading, and they were at a big show. And I asked the guy who worked for CGC, I said, how is this grading going to work? Because the price guide for a long time had 3 levels of grades. There was only 3. And still in the price guide now, it only goes up to 9.2. There is no 9.4, 9.6, 9.8, 9.9, 10. Now, he told me all it is going to be able to give a collector an honest grade from professionals. And 9.2 is going to be the limit. That's going to be the pinnacle, because that's what the price guide says. Okay, great. And he said 9.4 every once in a while, it's not going to be, I mean, that's got to be a perfect book, blah, blah, blah. 9.6, 1 out of 1,000 books are going to get a 9.6 because 9.2 is the pinnacle. This has got to be just extraordinary. It says you're never going to see a 9.8. You're never going to see a 9.9. And no book ever comes off the print as a 10. So you're never going to see that. So it was 9.2s were, 9.4s, 9.6s were real hard to get. But then people started complaining that we're sending all this stuff. And how come I get anything higher than a 9.4 or 9.6? Then they gave the 9.8. Then it was the 9.9. Then it was the 10. Then it was the black label. You're just doing that for money now. You're trying to appease people for them to continue to send books in. You see these videos where people open up these books and they're like, I got a 9.6 on this. It should have been a 9.8. I'm going to crack it and resend it.
Yeah.
Why? 9.2 is the pinnacle.
They're heartbroken.
They're heartbroken because, the price guide now at 9.2, there is no price for 9.4, 9.6, 9.8. It's a guesstimate. Yeah. Well, if a 9.2 is $200, a 9.4's got to be at least $250, 9.6 got to be $350, and 9.8's got to be $500 because there's not that many out there. But how many 9.8s do you see now?
Oh, gosh. I mean, I see videos, people are crying if they don't get a 9.8.
They don't. They
just knew this was going to be a 9.8. They're crying.
They cry. And, Cards does the same thing. BGS, the Beckett Grading Company.
Yeah.
On their slab on the back, it gives you front, back, centering, corners. Those are the grades. Each one of those 4 things is graded. And if you go 10, 10, 9, 5, 9, you're going to get a 9.5, which is their gem mint. But if you get all 4 10s, you get the black label. And those get real premium. But again, who's to say it's a black label? Who's to say it's a perfect card? Everybody's grading standards is different. It's not like one guy sits in his house and grades all these books for CGC or grades all these cards for PSA and BGX or BGC. Everybody, you see something different than I see it. I grade a certain defect harder than another person. So, I had said in a video a long time ago, grading's a scam because if you're grading more than 10 to 15 books, honestly, a day, your eyes are going to get tired and you're going to miss things. These graders are doing 100 books a day.
Oh, wow.
You can't tell me what you looked at in the first 10 books. Your eyes are seeing the same thing you didn't see 9 through 10 or, 90 to 100. You can't tell me that. And so that's why I said it's just a money grab. They'll look at it real quick. It's like when, it was CGC said, we have a 3-person team that looks at each book to make sure the book is accurately graded. Then why am I getting books that get put in backwards, mislabeled slabs? How is that?
Upside
how
down.
Is that? If 3 people looked at it, I said in my video, all that is just fluff for people to think, oh, they're really checking good. No, they're not. They're not checking. And the guy just writing this stuff out to push the books aside. And it's ridiculous.
I have a question for you because you said when you talked to them initially, they said that they were going to have professionals grading the books. What makes you a professional? I mean, is there training? Do they have like a training class? Or I'm being serious.
Sure.
Who says that You are a professional. David's a professional. This person over here is a professional.
Initially, what they did is they walked around to bigger sellers who've been in the industry a long time and looked at their grading and asked them, do you want to be an advisor? Do you want to be, you want to help us out with this? Want to help us out with that? When no one wanted to do that, they just started bringing people in and saying, okay, this is what you look for. This is a comic book. You're looking at the cover. You're making sure the centerfold's attached. You're making sure all the pages are there and that there's no staining and everything like that. If you think the book is good, you give it this grade. And that's what it was. They're trying to teach someone how to grade. It took me a long time to get comfortable with my grading standards, but I got my grading standards from asking a lot of questions in the late 70s and through the 80s, like, people that I respected and trusted that were in the industry. And I was like, well, what makes this book, a good book? And that's why I'm the guy who goes to the people hate at the shops where I pick up the stack of books and tilt it sideways, look at the spines to make sure everything is good. Because not that I sell anything anymore, because I don't do shows anymore, but I want my books to be as nice as possible because, like I said, growing up, I didn't get a lot of stuff. So I wanted the nicest stuff. And I still do that. And I tell people, you want the book picked, you want to ruin your book. Don't tell me how to do it. We talked about that when I was protecting books. I was triple boarding things when I was doing shows because people treat your books like garbage.
Yeah.
How am I going to protect the books when they don't get spines? Because they'll just stuff them back in the box. Well, it's harder to do that with a 3-board than a 1-board. And I sold a bunch of modern stuff to a friend of mine who has a shop here in town. And he always gets mad at me because he's like, every time I buy a collection from you, it's 10,000 pounds of boards with your books, because you triple board everything. And there's another shop that I go to and I've had conversations. He says, I don't double and triple board because it takes up space in my box. And that's, it might be 5 less books I can put out. Well, my thing is I'd much rather have good high condition books, because when you go buy something, whether it's a toy, a record, do you not look at condition?
Yeah.
Oh, always.
Yeah.
All the time. So why would I not take the extra expense for people to continue to come back to my booth? Every time a show opened, they would come to my booth first because they knew he doesn't put garbage out there and he protects his books. It's really nice when a person picks up your book and you have it graded, you have it priced. What did you grade this book? And on the back, it'll be a low grade. And they'll be like, okay. They don't question your grades because you're accurate. I even had one guy send me a notice. He says, just because you undergrade books doesn't make you a good grader. Well, if you think I'm undergrading books, you should buy all my books because the value's there. I don't understand that. It's like my Planet of the Apes shirt. I don't understand that. Let a kid enjoy a TV show.
If he actually even watched the video.
People don't watch the video.
No.
They don't watch the video, and they just, it's like when I made the comments with CGC. CGC was all over me about that. They were all over me with that. Just like Liefeld was all over me when I made comments about his skinny feet on the Deadpool thing. I made a video saying, he had done an interview where he put himself up there with some of the greatest artists. He's a popular artist only for the simple fact that he did Deadpool and Cable. And okay, so great. You had a couple of great characters. Doesn't mean you can draw those characters. The famous Captain America with the chest the size of a mountain. And,
the little arm.
Also, there's a rumor the little arms. There's a rumor going out that he doesn't even do the legs on his books. He has someone who does the lower portion of the body for him, because the Deadpool foot's like a little pointy foot. It's real little skinny. And I was at a show and he was like, hey, I was wearing my Arkham Comics t-shirt, and he was like, hey, are you that guy who does YouTube videos? And I said, absolutely I am. He's like, you're going to keep talking bad about the way I draw? I'm an artist. I'm like, you're going to learn how to draw feet? You learn how to draw feet, you wouldn't have to talk bad about it. Because a lot of people do that, and to me, there's great artists. Bernie Wrightson, to me, is the pinnacle. He didn't do a lot of, he just did amazing things, but that's an artist. Alex Ross now is an artist, doesn't paint. That's an artist. I read an article somewhere where Bernie Wrightson in the 70s at his height was completing 10 to 12 books a month. And he was doing cover to cover. He did everything by hand with pencil.
Yeah.
You got artists now who have a computer that does everything on computer. They can't get a book done in a month. Who's the artist? You know, it's just, you know, Liefeld, yeah, CGC, I walk by and they're like, oh, you the guy talks bad about our grading company. When you learn how to grade, I won't talk bad about it. Your grading standards are terrible. It's a money grab. And they get mad at me. I don't care. That's me, ruffle and feather since 2012.
Hey, that's all right.
Hey.
I was always partial to Plug myself. Plug, the
Plug, the book.
artist. Yeah, Plug, the artist.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it was cover to cover by hand. Actually. Yeah, cover to cover by hand.
And some of these guys would do, and like you had said, even go back Golden Age, Silver Age, doing a dozen or more books on their own.
Mm-hmm.
Sit in a little corner somewhere on the writer's table all day long. And yeah, it's a great point, because now you get people that can't finish a book in a month.
Well, then you look at, because I read a lot of the older books, and it's a lot of pictures in there. I mean, you got small boxes and they're filled. Mm-hmm. And the modern books is one page, or the 2 pages make one picture. And it's like, now that you say that and you put a lot of thought in it, it's like, wow, that's a lot of drawing.
There was a lot of paneling because there was a lot of dialogue.
Yeah, it was a lot of dialogue. So you had a lot of pictures. And then you go to these modern books, like I said, 1 page is 1 picture. And you might got 3-4 word bubbles if you got a word bubble. Wow, that's a lot by hand, and it's small.
Yeah, and you see some artists are getting popular now, but their art, it's not because the art is real, what do you call it? Kind of rudimentary art.
Yeah.
Just kind of sloppy looking. The lines aren't fine, and they're like, oh, that's just the way it is now. That's great art. But you have to, what appeals to everybody? I love anything Bernie writes in. Neil Adams. I love Neil Adams. And I got to meet them, and they were really nice. Some of these artists now think they're just better than everybody. The older artists appreciated the fan. You could go to shows in the 80s, 70s, and 80s, and Neil Adams, Ramita Sr., just all these great artists, and they were very appreciative of you coming up and talking to them and appreciating their artwork. And they would talk to you. Now you get some people that are just, it's crazy, because people are just trying to make the quick buck. And I think that kind of blows off a lot of the newer artists. We're losing our vintage artists.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot out there anymore from the, I think all the Golden Age artists are probably much gone now. And then, you have to appreciate it. But this younger generation of artists, it's a different, you have the nice ones still. You have some guys that are super, super nice. And then some that they don't even acknowledge the fan. They just sign the book and push it aside. The person's there for enjoyment. And, it's someone, I saw a thing, and it's kind of like, you go to conventions, you can buy the picture with, the celebrity. Mm-hmm. And there was one female celebrity who people paid $80 to get a picture with her, the professional pictures at a convention. And she had her manager marked off an area. You had to be 2 feet away from her. She sat in a chair, and you had to stand 2 feet away from her to get your picture taken. It's like, why am I going to pay for that? And then I met the actor who plays Art the Clown, and nicest guy in the world, which is kind of weird because you see his character on the movies, you meet this guy, and he's just the nicest guy in the world. It's just things change. That.
Sid Haig.
So Sid Haig was great.
Yeah.
Sid Haig he did a lot of stuff in the 70s. He did a lot of the blaxploitation movies. He was, always the villain, always a tough guy. Of course, got famous with the Rob Zombie movies, Devil's Rejects, House of a Thousand Corpses. I met him probably a month before he died. I have a picture taken with him. Nicest guy in the world. The absolute nicest guy in the world. Appreciative of, I appreciate you coming to see me. I appreciate that you like my movies. just a nice guy.
Mm.
And he's, I've been lucky because in the horror genre, which I'm really big on, I go to a lot of conventions, and a lot of those old B movie actors, nice. Like I met Damone from Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and the guy who played Damone.
Yeah.
A super nice guy, and I said, "Can I get a picture with you?" And my buddy took a picture, and he like looked at the picture. He's like, "Let's get a couple of different ones. Make sure we get a good one for you." That wasn't. I didn't pay for that. He was just, "Let's make sure we get a good picture for you." You know,
sure.
And he had the little blondie stand up like in the scene in the mall. "Hey, Debbie, how you doing?" And nicest guy in the world. And it wasn't about money. It was about him out there meeting the fans who appreciated his character in that movie. And a lot of people from the 80s, Anthony Michael Hall was like that. Like I said, a lot of the B movie actors, Linnea Quigley, who did, she was the punk rock girl in Return of the Living Dead, did a lot of the B movie slashers. She came up to like my waist. I have a picture with her. Nicest in the world. Nicest girl in the world. I'm 6'5". So, I'm big anyways, but it's just so nice. And then you get some of the big stars now, especially this younger generation of stars, they just don't have time for you. They just kind of, push you aside. And that turns people off. And that also hurts the industry.
And that's part of that whole autograph, the modern autograph culture, which I've gotten on a lot. I mean, you get on the whole grading thing. The autograph culture is one for me because I used to do stuff with Great Eastern conventions in the early 90s, and the signatures were free.
Yeah.
You didn't pay for autographs, or if it was a fee, it was like $5, $10, depending upon how big the person was. And now, I mean, you gotta pay for take a picture with your cell phone. The meet and greet is like, yeah, hi, how you doing? Here's your paper, get out of my face. And people is paying in hundreds and hundreds or even thousands for autographs, depending upon who it is and what they'll sign and if they're in a good mood that day. And I've just seen a huge switch in a very short time. And I'm like,
Yeah, I've seen that just like you. I'm a huge sports fan. So I would go to tons of Padre games in San Diego because I lived right by the stadium. And you can stand by the bus when the visiting team came out, and you can stand there and they'd sign autographs for you. They would stop and sign. They wouldn't blow you off. And these are, the big teams in the mid to late 70s, early 80s. And then it was like that at comic conventions. I remember going to Comic-Con in 77, and you had all your big artists that time, Bernie Wrights and Neil Adams, big artists. And you would go up and you'd ask them to sign. I had a little autograph book. I was like, "Can I get your autograph?" "Absolutely." And they'd sign an autograph and they'd draw a little headshot or something like that for free. Free autographs. Here you go. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for enjoying my artwork. Now, can I get a remark on your signature? Yeah, $100. I mean, everything's about money. But people ask me what I think about that with the artist. I don't blame the artist because it's the speculators, the people who resell stuff. I told you that story at the convention where people were having stacks of books, and these guys are signing 50 of these books, and the people don't even as much say thank you. Stuff it in their box, and they run to the next artist they want to get. And then the artists are seeing, "What do you mean? I signed that book and you're selling it for $80. Now I'm going to charge. I'm going to charge you." It used to be $5 an autograph, and then it went to $5 for 2 autographs. Anything over that's going to be $10. Now it's $50 to get something signed. Very few artists will give you a free signature. And then you have the issues that happen, the famous Pete Momoko issue at the New York Comic-Con, where the fights broke out, and they had to rush her out of there. She got so scared her team had to rush her out. And that's the greed, and that is the non-fan. A fan wants one thing signed. I went and saw Bernie Wrightson before he died at a show here in town, and I wish I would have gotten more stuff signed. There was no one at his table because it was all about the kids that didn't know who Bernie Wrightson was, and the person said, "Who's this guy?" "Who is this? It's Bernie Wrightson." If there's this is one of the top guys. He's a gold medal winner here, and he signed something for me, and I got a beautiful. He always did a nice signature, and he dated it. Always dated it, so you know exactly when it was signed. I wish I would have gotten more, but I'm not looking at it for the money. I have that print I got from him because it's a beautiful print and it's Bernie Wrightson. And that's all I care about. And I have a picture of me and Bernie Wrightson, and it has nothing to do with the money. And Neil Adams was really nice. Early on, then of course he charged later in life because everybody else was. And he was one of the top, top 3 guys at that time, And whenever someone dies, the next guy comes up. There's an artist from the Germany, and a Golden Age artist, Alan Bellman. Have you ever heard of him?
I don't think so.
Alan Bellman did a lot of the World War II war comics. And he told a story to me. He was very gracious with his time, and he was in his 90s when he passed away. And he was here in Vegas years ago, and I talked to him. And I said, what got you into the war comics? And he said, when World War II started, we were called to Washington to speak to the War Department. And they told us, we want you to draw comics that depict Japan and Germany in a negative light. And if you look at those books from there, the Germans are always evil looking, lurking over children, lurking over women, the evil empire. And you see a lot of that in the Captain America books because Alan Bellman did a lot of Captain America. And then the Japanese always had that, the big teeth, real evil looking. And they did that because that's what the government requested to get people behind the war effort. Now that's historical. Those books that depict those things on those covers, although, today's, people, that's so racist. Well, that's the time. That's the time it was. You can't change history. You can fix history, but don't close the door on history because those are historical things because of the time that it was. Because you can't tell me when, Pearl Harbor was bombed that everybody loved Japan. They didn't. That's why, tens of thousands of people signed up the very next day to fight in the war. And comics have a part of that. And these artists that were doing that, we've lost that historical part. It's like losing an author, who writes great novels. You lose that part of history, and if they don't teach that part of history, which you can teach that through comics, historical value of comics as it relates to different eras of the time, people don't understand that. They just look at it, with a single focus of it's bad, it's evil, it's racist. No, it's not. It's historical. And you just have to understand that. And that's what I like in comics. That's why I always took time to talk to these older artists. Why did you do this? Why did you do that? How'd you do this? How'd you do that? I did that because this is why. And you get the story from the artist why they did that.
Yeah.
And they're all gracious with their time. Alan Bellman was the nicest guy in the world. The thing that made me laugh about Alan Bellman is his wife was the same age he was, in her 90s, and she'd always dress up like Wonder Woman. She was real old, had this Wonder Woman outfit on, but there they were at the shows, and he was, like I said, he'd give me the big thumbs up in the picture, and he had his little cane, and but he had a bunch of his original art that he wasn't selling. He's letting people look at it though.
Yeah.
And he showed me the one that he did that was unpublished, and it showed an American flag in a sinking ship that was on fire, and the flag was beaten and torn. And the heading said, America will never be the same. And I said, when did you do that? And he said, I did that the evening of December 7th, 1941. Because I knew when the Japanese burned Pearl Harbor, this country would never be the same. And he did that. It was a beautiful piece he did. And it's little things like that in the artists that they do that they think of things like that. It's not just about making money. It's about their personal feelings when they put it out on paper. And that means a lot to me as a person who loves the industry and loves the history of comics or movies or things like that. I've had the opportunity to meet, Steven Spielberg a couple of times in one of my older jobs at the Wynn. I was a security supervisor, got to escort him around, and he was so gracious with his time talking about things like why Schindler's List was filmed in black and white. And I asked him, why did you film that in black and white? And he said, the reason it was filmed in black and white because the area around the concentration camp Auschwitz, where we filmed it, is beautiful countryside. And someone told him If you put it in color, no one will see the story because color makes everything beautiful.
Mm.
So we filmed it in black and white. So it would be, the story would take the front and not the beautiful photography.
Okay.
And that's, that's amazing. That's an amazing story.
Mm-hmm.
That's how someone thinks about that, because he knew the historical, impact that movie was going to have on people. So how do I make that the focus and not the movie, but make the story the focus? Same thing with comics. How do I make the cover of the comic the focus to tell the country what's going on in World War II? And I know I rambled on about that, but I'm real passionate I'm real passionate about the historical aspect of certain comics, and stuff in the 40s is historical. Just like if you look at the comics, the old DC comics from the early 50s, before they started doing the comics code, where they burned all that stuff. I love to look at, there's a book I have that shows nothing but banned books. You can look at the covers of why they would be banned in the 50s, because of decapitation covers, hanging covers, murder covers. You understand that, but that's a form of censorship that this country was supposed to not have, and they did that. And
and just for war with an enemy, and that was one of the tenets of why, was because they were burning books, and then we turn around and do the same damn thing.
Yeah.
Someone just made a comment about the little girl in the red dress in the movie.
Yeah.
This is Saturday Morning Fan. The story I heard was when they were interviewing survivors of the concentration camps, and the horrible thing that happened to them. They interviewed a lady in New York, a lady in Chicago, one in Los Angeles, one in Israel, and a couple in Europe, where that ghetto scene took place. They called it the Jewish ghetto, where it's all wild. You see the little girl in the red dress. These women didn't know each other, or these people didn't know each other, but every one of them mentioned, remembering with all the chaos, there was a little girl in a red coat that was just walking like nothing was happening around her. And that just burned in their mind. And they all said the same thing. When we got to Auschwitz, that little red coat was on top of a pile where they put the coats where they killed everybody. The red coat is a homage to all the children that were killed in the concentration camps. Because remember, the old and the young were not wanted. So they wanted to make a point of giving that homage to that, because of the impact that little red coat had in real life to the people that were actually in those camps suffering that atrocity. And I thought that was something that hit real hard to me, because I always remembered watching that movie thinking, why did they put that one little piece in color? Because even on the movie poster, it's a black and white movie poster with a girl in the red coat. That's why.
I remember that. I remember that scene, and I wondered the same thing, and I never heard anything about why that. But okay, now that you say that, that's pretty.
Yeah, and when I heard that, I was like, wow, that it takes a totally different feel. That makes that scene that much more powerful from a theatrical aspect, knowing that there was a little girl like that, and what happened to her, even though they don't show it. What happened when you saw the pile of coats. That's what it is. And so again, that's something where a person wants to tell a story, but he wants it, that people might not know. You watch a movie, just watch a movie for fun, until you realize that there's certain things in those movies that, actually have something that touches you. And the comic books can do that. A good movie can do that. It just depends on, what you're feeling at that time.
Yeah.
Or what the creator's feeling at that time when they're doing that.
Yeah, if it's understood. If it's understood, and you're just not blindly watching it or blindly reading it. And you were talking about, of course, covers, and that's an important thing now too, and that's something that we've talked about quite a bit, is that the covers on all the older books, you go like say Golden Age through to Copper, and there was something about the aesthetics of the cover that would draw you in. You'd look at it and be like, I wonder what's going on in here. But now all you get is portraits. You get all kinds of portrait covers Most of them are drawn digitally. And then you get multiples because everybody's going to have a bunch of variants. I know, what was it, Berserker 69 variant covers, 69, right?
Yeah, 69 covers.
And then you had a bunch the magazines. Because she just got a bunch of magazines just recently
on the corner right there.
Yeah.
But I mean, can you really call these people artists if they're sitting in front of a computer and the computer is creating the picture?
No.
Like you were talking about earlier, people like Neil Adams and Bernie Wrightson was actually sitting there with paper and pencil and drawing these pictures.
Yeah. So, that makes me wonder what the heck have these guys got themselves into?
Sure. Yeah, and a lot of those magazines that you got, and you're lucky to get a lot of magazines like that, have amazing covers. I have a bunch of amazing covers of magazines back there that I absolutely love because the covers are so good. I buy a lot of things based off of covers.
Yeah.
Like that,
I do also because
look at that King Kong. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And you got the mummies on there. Where did you get those?
I got those off of Amazon. I mean, not Amazon, eBay. Sorry, eBay. I just got them in today, and I bought it because of this cover right here. I love Barnabas Collins.
You got Barnabas Collins. You got Christopher Lee, and you got Blackula.
Yeah. And I'm starting to collect some of the Warren comics, and then these are the Marvel comics when they were trying to kick Warren out. But they actually did a lot of really good Dracula Lives, Vampire Tales, Zombie Tales. Those are some good ones. And I just saw a video recently where a guy was reviewing Zombie Tales.
Well, you can count the hairs. I mean, that's a lot of effort.
That's a lot of work, and that's not computer generated. That's from a guy's hand.
No.
I talked about, if you look at Bernie Wrightson, he did an art called The Hanging Girl. It's a girl hanging from a tree, and you see her from behind, and you can count the blades of grass. Oh, wow. It's a tree. It's a large field in the distance, or people coming down to it. She's hanging from the tree, and you can see the blades of grass. And it amazed me when I asked him, that's one of my favorite pieces you did. How long did that take you? He was like, I think like 6 hours. And I remember talking to Todd McFarlane, and we talked about that piece. And he said, if I tried to do that now barehanded, just with my hand, it'd take me 5 days, a week to get that. He did it in 6 hours because Bernie Wrightson was a different monster.
Yeah.
He was just a different type of artist. He said that once he put his mind to drawing something, it would just flow out of him. And if you look at his art, it's absolutely amazing. He did a lot of the Swamp Things. He did, just the Frankenstein monster, the famous Frankenstein picture of Dr. Frankenstein in the lab, the real big piece he did, where you can see bottles that are this big and you can actually read the labels on them. If you get a magnifying glass, there's labels on those bottles that you can read what the bottle is.
Oh, wow.
How long did that take? I mean, you don't have them like that anymore. You don't have things like that anymore.
The last one I remember with that level, that eye for detail, I think it's Geoff Darrow. He did Hard Boiled.
Yeah.
The magazine's Hard Boiled. Talk about excessive detail. All these little pieces and just gears and junk, because it was androids in the or cyborgs.
Sure.
In the book, but all the little parts and components and pieces, and he would just draw in random bits of everything he could think of to fill every aspect of the page. When you open a page up, you sit there and stare at it for 10 minutes before you even read it.
But that's the difference between somebody who understands that when I'm gone, this is still going to be here.
Yeah.
What do I want them to think of? And people, even though Bernie Wrightson's gone, he's still considered one of the greatest artists of our time, not just comic book artist, but an artist. And I buy things now just based off of a cover. In the 40s and 50s, it was the Good Girl covers. And if you look at the old gangster comic books, the old gangster ones, Crime Doesn't Pay, and those books right there, every cover is the same. It's a gangster
Yeah.
with a gun and a damsel in distress, tied up in a chair, and the cop busting through the door. That's a good girl cover,
Yeah.
And it was always, like a lot of the EC stuff, it was the girl being chased by the monster, the girl being choked, the girl being killed. The famous Christmas cover where the lady is in front of the Christmas tree and it's a casket for a present, and in the background her husband with an axe.
I remember that one.
That was one of the books they showed pre-code wise. Is this what we're teaching our kids? Is this the filth that they were looking at? Because her husband's going to knock her head off with with an axe. Well, yeah, that's what, if you're a kid and you like sci-fi and you've never seen things like that, you don't think a zombie tackling a girl with her clothes getting ripped off, you don't think a kid's going to look at that and say, I want that because it's a monster. EC knew what they were doing when they were doing those books. They know exactly what they were doing because that stuff sells. Even today, you got the polybag books that you can buy. And it used to be a polybag book was only because it would depict nudity or something like that on the book. And now they're doing polybags for everything. I mean, you had, what is it? Was it Vampirella now? Just had recently a $20 blind bag, gave you 3 books. But it's just a regular book. And I won't buy stuff like that. I love Vampirella. I love Lady Death. I love that stuff. I love the good girl covers like you do. And, I love crime covers and, real over the top graphic covers. I mean, Crossed, that was by Avatar, had covers that you just looked at like, man, have you seen a lot of the Cross covers for that?
No, I'm going to write it down.
If you look at that, you look at those covers, the early stuff, you're just like, wow. I mean, they did one after it was 9/11 when the towers got hit. Years later, they did for Emerald City Con, they did a special cover for Emerald City Con, and it was 2 pilots in a plane heading towards the Space Needle. And they were looking back, just smiling like they're looking at a camera. And you're like, really? You would do that? You would put that on there? And it was like, okay. And then you have just a lot of you'll look at them, just cross covers. Garth Ennis is one of the artists and writers that does that. And I have a huge collection of that because that's right up my alley. But some people look at it and they'll be like, oh, really? That?
Yeah.
Because it's like the cross thing is they have a red cross on their face. It's like they're infected like a Walking Dead type of thing. And they become psychopathic. And the storyline is there's a bunch of those in the world and there's groups of people that haven't been infected trying to get around and fight. And the covers they made are just, And they also did ones they called Fatal Fantasy where they had like, Cinderella and Snow White. And they did real wicked covers of them. Like the Twisted McFarlane toys where they had like the Twisted Land of Oz, where they had, a Bondage Dorothy, and they had the lion, the scarecrow, the Tin Man that were real wicked looking. And those things sold out and they're worth a lot of money. And, people like that stuff. There's a group of people who like anything, and well, that, people look at that stuff like, I had a bunch of Boundless books, which is known for its nudity and its graphic nature. And I'd always hide those under the table. I'd always get the one guy who comes up to the table and he'd be like looking around real silent. And he's like, do you have any Boundless books? Because he doesn't want anybody to know he's buying that stuff. And when I had my little indoor swap meet, my wife was working the shop for me one day, just in there to open it before I got there. And she's like, that guy's been like in the shop for like 30 minutes, just looking at the same box of books. And the minute I went in there, he walked up to me and he was like, do you have any Boundless books? I didn't want to ask the lady. It's like, yeah, I got some Boundless books. It's like, because I'm like, yeah, it's like, whatever you want. But, the thing that makes this industry great is you can collect what you want.
Yeah.
Sure.
I don't mind what people do. I could care less. It's their money. But when it starts to affect, in my opinion, the enjoyment of an industry, it's gone too far.
Yeah.
And you're going to start seeing that now. You see it now at Target and those places where they fight for the Pokemon cards.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You got people, they stage and they have fist fights and they, come on. that takes away from the enjoyment. That's not enjoyable. I don't want to go to a comic book store and fight somebody for a book, you know, and that's, you know, that's why you just have to try to refocus your attention sometimes and decide what do I want to do, because it's no fun anymore. If it's not fun, why do it? And speculators, resellers, scalpers, whatever you want to call them, they just, you know, and I'm with Saturday Morning Fan. I miss it when comics had one cover.
Well, you can thank McFarlane for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can think, you know, because they see a money grab. Remember,
Yeah.
remember was it Walking Dead 100? How many covers of that did they have?
I don't remember.
It's like 15, 16 covers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And it was like, holy cow. And you're thinking, what can be wrong? And then people coming out with, you know, 69 covers on, you know, Berserker. And, you know, they had one book that had 25 covers. I don't need 25 covers. I need one good cover.
Yeah.
And the anniversary of Batman had a 80, right?
Yeah.
Oh, for 80 years?
Yeah.
I don't
And
need
then,
80 covers.
Yeah. I pick on McFarlane because, of course, Spider-Man #1 with all the variants.
Mhm.
And plus they had bagged and unbagged versions of all of the bundles and all kinds of weird stuff.
Yeah.
And he carried that over into toys when he made the original Spawn line. There were paint variations, but they were deliberate, and that hadn't been really done before.
I have, speaking of toys, and McFarlane, I have this toy. I don't see it. It's Elizabeth Bathory from Faces of Madness, the Blood Countess. And she's in a bathtub full of blood. I don't know if you know the story with her. Well,
I don't think so.
She was a queen. And she believed that if she killed young girls,
we saw that movie.
I know who that is.
Yeah, it was a movie.
She would be live forever. Now, she, with all the paintings of her, she was a beautiful woman.
Mm-hmm.
And when they caught her, finding out exactly what she was doing to her own people, because she was queen of a region, she just took the peasants and, you know, off with their head, dumping in a bathtub on the bathe in that. They didn't kill her because she was a queen and a duchess. They just locked her in a dungeon. She just ended up dying. But McFarlane made this toy of her. You know, you see the heads on the, can't really see
on the wall.
Heads on the candles, and then she's bathed in blood. But there was a version of this book that everybody wanted, where one of her breasts was exposed, wasn't covered in the blood, and it was like one every 10 cases.
Oh,
that book, that toy itself, in that is super expensive, anyways. You know, that's close to $100 figure because they didn't make a lot. But the one where there's, you know, because you always see people on these toy videos, you know, do you have the Elizabeth Bathory with an exposed breast? And they're like, no, I got the regular one. You know, where she's completely covered in the blood. But, you know, McFarlane did that stuff, you know, for people to chase things, and it worked. It worked. And I just wish things were simpler, because if you notice, the best covers, you said if you have one cover of a book and it's a great cover, everybody loves it. Classic covers. But now, I mean, the best covers are the 1 in 25s, the 1 in 50s, the 1 in 100s, because I'll look at something I want to order. Oh, I love that cover. It's like, well, wait a minute, it's a 1 in 50. I'm not going to buy 50 copies to get it. And a lot of shops don't do that anymore. You know, there are shops, and we talked about this, you have comic book shops that they'll look at a book and there'll be like 10 covers. Well, the shop owner is going to be like, I picked 2 or 3 of the covers that I like, that I think the customers will like, and that's all I buy. I can't afford to buy that. These Marvel and these publishers are pricing out comic shops by making so many covers.
Which is what happened with the card shops, which we were talking about earlier, where they didn't know what to buy, because so many companies were producing cards and nobody wanted the sets anymore. They wanted the chases. And it folded, you know, late 80s, early 90s. A lot of card shops, when I was growing up in Boston, they went under. They went from like 20 shops to like 3 in just a couple of years.
You can thank Upper Deck for that, because I believe it was 1990. They had the Ted Williams autograph chase in their cards. And then it was Reggie Jackson, then it was Nolan Ryan. And even in the mid 90s, there wasn't a whole lot of autographs, jersey cards, things like that. But once
Mhm.
that became popular, no, everything is jerseys and patches and autographs, and everybody's chasing that. I'm going to get this big card. I'm going to get this. It's not the chase for the rookie anymore. I don't care if I get a base rookie. I need that special rookie, and I'm going to spend a bunch of money. And what happens with the prices? It goes up.
Hmm.
You can't find a box of cards anymore for less than $100, and that's the low end that nobody wants.
Oh,
Like I
wow.
said, you have some of these companies, whether it's National Treasures, you buy a box, comes in a real nice wooden box, and it's going to cost you $5,000, and it's going to give you maybe 8 cards. It's going to give you 8 cards. At Chicago, they were chasing. They made packs. Topps made packs of a football pack, football, basketball, baseball, hockey, WNBA, and like Star Wars. And you got 3 cards or 4 cards in the pack. I don't know what they were selling the packs for there to the dealers, but the secondary market was $400 a pack. And they were selling because they're trying to grab those 4 little cards where they might get something good. That's ridiculous. You can't, that's no fun anymore. I think it was fun for us growing up because I could buy a pack of cards for 10 cents.
Yeah.
I could buy a comp book for a quarter, 35 cents.
Yeah.
It's affordable. Here's $2. Go get a couple of things. No, it's here's $2. Okay, I'll wait another 9 months until I get enough money to buy something because I get $2 a week, and it's not going to be enough. I mean, look at the price of comic books.
Yeah.
Comic books now. I was mad when it was $3.99.
Yeah.
Now most books are $5.99, $8.99. It's like who's buying? Who has? Do you not look at the industry and the community and the country and realize that you can't go to the comic book shop anymore, pick up 10 books, and walk out with less than $50. That's a lot of money for anybody.
Yeah.
Axel Foley, 10 cents a pack for King Kong cards with gum. Yeah, baseball cards. You can get 15 cards in a pack. And that was there. Charlie's Angels, all that. You always got gum. You always got a piece of gum. And it was good for like 2 chews, and then it lost all of its flavor. It's like, because I remember opening packs as I was walking home, put the gum in my mouth, and be like, chew, 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 spit it out. Open the next pack, chew, 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 spit it out. Because I couldn't do anything else. That's my, I paid for it. I want it. I paid for it. I want it. And that's what it is.
Yeah, it's like I was saying. I think the card industry is probably beyond redemption at this point because it's been just dragged down. And that was a video I did earlier this week where I was just trying to pose the question, is anybody out there even still collecting because they want to collect them? Or is it all speculation? Why is anybody doing it anymore? Are they just trying to chase potential value, or do they actually care? And, I'm getting comments like, well, Pokemon cards have sold for millions. So there's your aunt, obviously they're still popular. I didn't ask if they were popular. I asked why, and selling for millions, that kind of almost proves my point because aside from money laundering potential, you're not going to tell me somebody's like, oh, wow, I really want to complete this set. I'll pay $5 million for that card.
Yeah.
It's all about, I wouldn't say everything, but I'm gonna put a number out there. 85 to 90% is all about what can I get and flip a year from now for money. When I was collecting stuff, I wanted to put the sets together no matter what I was doing. And I collected Padres because I'm from San Diego, and I always got happy when I got a Padre and a card, pack of baseball cards, or a Charger and football cards, or or a certain player that I wanted. I was a big Brooks Robinson fan. I get a Brooks Robinson card. I was like, yeah, Brooks Robinson. I'm happy about that. I didn't care what the value is. Too many people now, and I see this all the time. I'll get messages from people, and they'll be like, hey, I loved your video. Give me a name of a couple of storylines where I can buy some books that'll be worth such and such down the road. It's like, well, I don't know that because I buy what I want to buy.
Yeah,
I collect what I collect. I don't buy something with value in mind. And I picked up some models. You're a toy person. You might be able to tell me about these because I don't know a lot about them. I picked up these illuminators. They're like models that glow in the dark. Illuminators, and they're from I think the 80s, I believe, or early 90s. But they have. I got Dracula, Mummy, Wolfman, and Creature from the Black Lagoon. And the guy was like, "Oh, you can get the 4 for whatever." And I got it because it just reminded me of the old monster figures I used to put together.
Sure.
So I've never, really. There it is, right there. It's like
Rebel.
Yeah, and it's just I like it and I wanted it. I haven't opened it. They're still sealed. They were all sealed.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to have it because I thought it was really cool. I don't care what the money is. Let me turn my light on here. See if I can. I'm losing the sunlight a little bit. There we go. Want everybody to be able to see my beautiful face.
There we go.
Yeah, just kidding. So I don't do things. I do things that bring back good memories when I was a kid. That's all I care about. That's what I care about. That light is flooding me out. Okay. I don't know if I have another light here. If I can just illuminate the room. Where are we going?
But yeah, it just seems like that's the direction that a lot of that has gone in now, where people are more concerned about what something is worth rather than the, I guess, nostalgic value. Like for us, it's mostly nostalgic value. What brings the memories back, things like that, and how it triggers you. And we had a great experience with that recently with the Nestle's Quick, where we had I got original Nestle's Quick tins.
Oh, the old tins.
And
Spoon to open it.
Yeah, I know you need a spoon.
Open it.
When I had it in hand, it just hit different, and it shocked her too.
Mm-hmm.
And when I showed it on the live stream, it just triggered a lot of memories for people that were like, "Oh my God," And it's funny how certain things can hit you like that.
But
and that's what we're always interested in.
Yeah, that's what I'm interested in. Does it bring back a good memory?
Mm-hmm.
I remember like the old electronic football.
Yeah.
Came out in like 79, I think it was. 78, 79 was just little red lines that you played the football on. And I was never able to get one because my mom didn't have the money for it. And, I got to play my friends and stuff, but I never had my own on that. Yeah, there it is. Strawberry Quick. That's Sheldon Cooper's favorite drink next to Pepto-Bismol. No, Big Bang Theory. It's like Strawberry Quick, my most favorite drink, slowly beating out, Pepto-Bismol. I love that. And, it's going to be rusted on top. But I remember having to get the spoon to pop open the
top.
You would try to put the spoon in there and you would drop some of it because, you have to try to get out of the hole in the thing. I love that.
And it says 2 heaping spoonfuls, so that means 4.
Oh yeah. You got to just go.
And funny you would mention. I heard you mention that.
Oh, there it is. And
electronic quarterback.
I was walking with my wife years and years ago, and we went to this antique mall, and I saw an electronic football, and I'm like, "How much is it?" And they're like, "It's $20." So I bought it because I told my wife I could never have this growing up because it was expensive.
Yeah.
But I have it now.
Yeah.
And that meant a lot to me because I, held it and remembered how much I wanted it as a kid. And I had friends who were nice enough to let me use theirs, but it's not yours.
Yeah.
Now I have one that's mine. Whatever brings back a positive memory, a good endorphin feeling, makes me feel good.
Yeah.
I do that with movies. I do that with comic books and Blitzkrieg. I have tons of copies of Blitzkrieg because that's the book that got me started. And every time I see a copy, no matter how many I have, it just makes me feel good. And when I was able to find the 9/8, I was, ecstatic. And I'll show the book if people don't know what it is. I think I got it here. Ugh.
Sorry about that. I'm trying to find this.
Boom.
Yeah.
Blitzkrieg number one.
Oh,
She
I've
knows it.
seen that. Okay.
She knows it.
Yeah.
This
She
is-
does it.
I think I
World War
have
II.
that one. I do have that one.
Yep.
Yeah. World War
Yeah.
II through the eyes of the Germans.
Yeah.
And I always remember the
I love
cover
that copy.
where the one German is telling somebody, "Don't shoot, Hugo," and the other one's saying, "Orders are orders. They're the enemy, and this is war." And you can see a mother and a son embracing each other in the window, and the father's already been killed.
Mhm.
And this was just a book, and I remember this was the first book that I couldn't wait for the next issue to come out, because I had a guy who would read and I always told the story. It was a couple of college kids where we lived, and they collected comic books. And he would read the book to me and my friends, and he'd use the German accent when he read it. It was through the eyes of the Germans. So he used this fake German accent. And they were killed in a fire, an apartment fire. Their apartment burned down and they died. That's the first time I tell people I experienced a loss that made me feel bad. And even today, when I go to the apartment's still there, it's just different. I would always just take a comic book and drop it on the porch. They don't live there anymore, but it's just something that I do. And I had a lady, I would drop a book on, this lady came out and she says, "Are you the one who puts these books here once in a while?" And I said, "I'm sorry." And I told her the story. And I've been doing that for years. She says, "I have lived here for 10 years. And she went in the house, and every comic I dropped on that porch, she brought out.
You had them. Oh, wow.
She had them. She's like, "We just put them on the shelf because it obviously means something to somebody." And, it's just something that I do. That book always brings back amazing memories for me when I see it. And I'm like, I'll take that. My wife would go, "Don't you have that book?" I do, and I'm going to have a lot more. 20 long boxes of Blitzkrieg number one. I'll corner the market. In the corner of the market on Blitzkrieg number one. And that's okay because it makes me feel good. That's what collecting's all about.
Yeah.
It's what
now you said both of y'all were talking earlier about the cards and how they died out. Do you think, and I've seen a lot of videos on comic books dying.
The collecting's died out,
well,
but it's the market. The market's massive.
Yeah, the market has, but I mean, like the comics, you see the videos about comics are dying, Marvel is dying, DC is dying, sales are down. There's no collectors. Do you see that or feel that?
We go through stages like that now. From when comic books came out in the 30s, all the way through the 70s to the mid 80s. People who I collect comic books, they look at you like you're crazy.
Yeah.
That's a kid's thing. No, I like comic books. I graduated in 86. I'm still collecting comics. It didn't get popular. Then in the 90s, especially with the death of Superman, it was just a burst of, excitement, and people got into the comic books because, I want to make money on this. And it was during that time you had, death of Superman. You had, Valiant releasing comics that was all pumped up. You had the Previews magazine pumping people up. This is going to be worth this. This is going to be worth this.
Wizard
magazine. Wizard. Yeah, Wizard. The back. Wizard's Hot 10 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And you had that, and it got real popular, and then it died off again when people realized there's too much of it out there.
Mm-hmm.
The late 80s, early 90s is the junk wax of comic books, is what I call it. And it died down. And then something kicked off again. Walking Dead got a lot of people excited about comics when the show got popular. People started getting comic books on Walking Dead. And then you had that TV show, Comic Book Men, where, they were talking about comic books after The Walking Dead. And that got people excited about comics and toys again because, Kevin Smith has a shop. And they would have this show, Comic Book Men, talking about comic books and things of that nature. And then they just kind of took off with it. It's going to drop again. You're going to see a time where the comic books, fall out of favor. And the only ones that are going to be around is the hardcore collector who wants the books because they enjoy the books. They're not in there. I mean, I went to a shop on Wednesday, and I usually don't go on Wednesdays because my day off is Thursday. And so I wasn't at work, and I thought, okay, I'm going to go to the shop. Went with a friend. And people just snatching, trying to grab, first thing they go to is the variants. What's the hot variant? And what's this? And what's that? And that's what hurts the industry because when that dies down, they're not ever coming back. I mean, we talked about this, I think, the last time we spoke. I know people who have shops that people wanted the hot books that were coming out, and they would order to get a subscription from the comic book shop. And there's shops that have, 80, 90 books that haven't been picked up, and they're never going to get picked up. That's money that the shops earn. That's what causes shops to close. We had a shop here in town that closed recently that was a well-known shop everywhere. But their customer service was really bad. And I talked about that in my video that you guys watched, that, they reminded me of like the comic book guy on The Simpsons. You have to be appreciative. If I own a business, I'm appreciative that anybody walks through that door and gives me one of their dollars, because that's hard-earned money. There are shops that treat people like they're doing you the favor by allowing you to buy their stuff. And like I said, that doesn't play for a long time. And they ended up closing, and they had big money backing, and they had the things that people wanted, but people aren't going to go where they're not appreciated. You want to be appreciated. The 3 shops I talked about on my last video are appreciated. They appreciate everything that goes in there. That's why I talked about them. I know all 3 of the owners, and they all have their own different business model, but it works for them. So if the market was to die down now and just go completely out, they will still remain feasible and relevant, because they cater to a real collector, not just speculators. They have a little bit of everything, and that's the secret to this. Because comic books, baseball cards. I mean, how many baseball card shops were there in the late '80s? Tons.
Yeah.
Tons. The ones that handled it were the ones that didn't try to saturate the market and understood that there's going to be tough times to go with the good times. And comic books right now, for the most part, is going to go through a tough time, and it's going to be that way for the next couple of years. And I blame the Pokemon craze, because we have a show here every few months, a real big one. I can't think of the name of it because I usually don't go to it, but it's supposed to be a comic book card show. Very few comics, all Pokemon. Everybody has the same cards at their table. Everybody has the same graded stuff. Everybody has this. Everybody has that. Ultimately, that's going to be oversaturation of the market, and people are going to step away from it. And that's going to hurt the industry for them. That benefits people like you and I, because now not everybody's chasing the hot toy. Not everybody's chasing the hot books. Now I can get that book. I can get that toy. I can get that movie. I mean, there's, you talk about, they had the, 50th anniversary of Jaws.
Oh yeah.
That came out. They had, or 75 last year, and they had a special 50th anniversary set that was sold out before it even hit the market. And, because these speculators snap them up, and they pay, $125, $150, and they're selling on the secondary market for $500. And if a person's a collector who really, really wants it, they're paying it because they want it, and they couldn't get it on the open market. That's what hurts. Now, that's kind of a different thing, because those are super limited things. They didn't make tons of that. But the same thing goes with cards. I mean, how many Pikachu cards, how many, Charizard cards are there out there of not the same thing, that are, everything's graded at 10. And the biggest knock I got from the last Collectors Con, the National Sports Card Convention, Sports Lawn Sports Card Convention. And I got this on a lot of videos where people are doing live streams from the convention. They're opening up packs, they're opening up boxes, they're doing deals. And a lot of people had the same comment. If you're going to get something graded, get it graded here at the National, because there just seems like a lot of 10s are coming out of that PSA booth.
Oh, wow.
And you had a guy, he took a bunch of cards in, and he was like, I did a 25 card submission, same day, paid big money for it. And it was like 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. Everything was a 10. It's got stacks of 10s. What does that leave you? Everybody's got stacks of 10s. If you got 100 cards of a 10 and it's selling for $100, just use that as a number. A year from now, it's going to be a $10 card, because there's so many of them. It's not rare anymore. I told people in 2012, the best investment in comic books was pre-code. Why? A lot of those books got destroyed during the comic,
the SOTI,
for the stamp, the comic code, and they burned tons of that stuff.
Yeah.
Impossible to find. And everybody's like, no, that's not true. A few years later, it was all about the pre-code horror, the EC stuff. It's so rare. Yeah, I told you that years ago when I was buying this stuff when no one else was buying it. I don't know if you were going to comic shows in the 90s, 80s, but I could go to a table, look at stuff, pre-code, old EC stuff that sells for $500-$600 now. I was picking up then $10, $15 because no one wanted it. They wanted the hot Valiant and the little gimmick covers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another good thing right there. They used to, if you owned a newsstand and you wanted,
you tear the title off. Yeah.
You had to tear the cover page off to prove that you had the book, that you destroyed the book. And then, of course, people realize that I'm wasting money doing that. And so you're going to find a lot of things, you'll see a lot of books in that era that don't have a cover. Why? Because now, you see Action Comics #1, cover only, interior page only, thousands of dollars. Just for one page. Because it's Action #1. Why would I buy a page of a book? Just a single page. Why would I do that? If I have to read Action Comics #1, they just did a facsimile of it. I'll buy the facsimile and read it. But to sit there and pay thousands of dollars to say I have a page, good for you. I'm glad you have a page. Heck, is it worth $1,500? It doesn't even have Superman on it. Probably not. But I'm glad for you. That's what you got. That's what you wanted. Again, it's what you want to collect. Like I bought the Laserdisc. Someone said, "You have a Laserdisc machine?" I was like, "Well, no, it doesn't work, but the artwork is really good on the old Laserdiscs."
Yeah, it is.
And I love the artwork. I love that. I love the artwork on the old Laserdisc. If you put, if I have the right up there, the Fog is a Laserdisc. The Return of the Living Dead that you see, to the left is a Laserdisc. And I have records of, that's, an original Number of the Beast, Iron Maiden. I have the Who's Quadrophenia, which to me is the iconic kid on the Vespa scooter, that was on there. And that's what I do. I put it up there. Why? Because I look at them, I'm like, I remember that. I remember getting Women and Children First at Tower Records when I, when I saw it in I think it was 80. And I'm like, oh my God, Van Halen, the new Van Halen's out. And it meant something. You were excited. You don't get excited anymore. I don't get excited for releases anymore, things like that.
Yeah, for the modern, and that's what I see across the board in different genres of collecting, is that modern really seems to be dead or dying, and it's everybody wants the older stuff. And I think a great example of that is the record shows.
Yeah,
because if you go to everybody, vinyl records are making a comeback. It's 6 feet of real estate at Walmart.
Yeah.
And we're coming from when we were kids, a record store was the size of Walmart.
Oh, yeah.
You can't compare the two. But if you go to a vintage vinyl record show, it's shoulder to shoulder, front to back, jammed with people. It's packed. And they're not buying modern vinyl. They want they're picking through for old stuff. And young people too. We've seen kids as young as 10 and 12 sifting through looking for vinyl records at those shows.
Well, and the reason being, and I said this a long time ago, when first it was, you had 8-track, which was, horrible. And then it became
that was just for cars.
That was for cars. And you're old when you remember your mom putting in the 8-track tape and got the matchbook to lift it up so it would actually play in the player in the car, because it would drop up and down. And but then then they had, of course, records. I love going to Tower Records in San Diego. The big Tower Records in San Diego is right across the street from the sports arena where all the concerts were. Now, back in the early 80s, I remember going to see the Scorpions for the Blackout Tour, 1982. Big sign. Scorpions, San Diego Sports Arena, 8 p.m. Saturday night. Come see the Scorpions at Tower Records at 2:00 on Saturday. And they would just sit there and sign autographs. Everybody who played at the sports arena went across the Tower Records the day of the show and signed autographs on your albums. It didn't cost you nothing. They were just thankful that you went there. And I used to love collecting albums. And then people started realizing, even though digital, CD, cassette tape, you know, when the you know, regular, what do you call it? The discs came out, the compact discs, they realized that vinyl is a true sounding of the song. That's how music is supposed to be listened to. If you don't have reel to reel, you know, the old reel to reel tapes that, you know, some people have, music people have, it's the vinyl albums, the original LPs. That's why people went back to LPs, because it's the way the music's supposed to be played. You know, it's like I don't download movies. I want to have the hard copy of the movie in my hand. And, you know, I always tell people I have, you know, probably 1,000 movies, and people are like, "You have a sickness." Yeah, I do have a sickness. Because I couldn't get that stuff when I was a kid, so I want it now. I don't. Take it with you. Yeah, well, you know, I told my son just the other day.
You could say that about anything that anyone owns.
Yeah.
So they didn't buy it.
I love it. I got, you know, I got everything. I got, you know, I just love it. And, you know, not that I have tons of money, but I have enough money to pay my bills and buy a little treat for myself once in a while. And, you know, it's like I told my son the other day, when I'm not here anymore, Nathan, my grandson's autistic. He's on the autistic scale and he loves movies. And I'm like, you know, there's going to be a ton of movies for Nathan, you know, to finger through, because he loves movies. And, you know, that's okay. It's something that I like. And I like watching actual hard copies. I love watching movies on VHS, because I remember going to the rental stores.
Yeah. Go to the rental store.
The rental stores where I went, it was a place called Little Video, little family-owned place. And they had carpeted walls. And the box of the movie had a piece of Velcro. And if you wanted the movie, you pulled it off the wall and took it to the counter. And in the back, they had a big room where all the movies were. And they took the movie out and put it, you know, in a little plastic container. And that, you know, when you were done, you knew the movies. If the movie was on the wall, you knew they had it in stock. And, you know, I was like, oh, look, it'd be like, you know, you see a little Velcro coming off as you take it off and run it up, you know, on the carpet, like that, you know, flat carpet, the industrial carpet, I guess they call it. But that's how they did it. And those are good memories for me. Those are great memories. You know, a big weekend was, you know, when you're 13 years old, is going to the video store, renting a couple of scary movies, and watching the movies at home. And I like that. But then, you know, movies are so expensive now. I mean, my wife and I went and saw the Grogu movie, the Mandalorian movie, in the theater. Okay. And it was me and my wife, and we went to the theater at a local casino, which has got great seats, it's everything. It's a great place to see a movie. But by the time we got our tickets and our snacks, it was $100. What happened to Dollar Tuesdays?
Oh wow!
Oh yeah, you know, tickets are, you know, $20. You know, popcorn is, you know, expensive, and you get a couple of drinks and some candy, and, you know, you're into it for a, you know, a nice C note. And I watched, there was an old video, going to the movies in 1984 is what it was called. And the lady's sitting there ringing stuff up, and they're like, you know, he's like, 2 tickets. And she's like, 2 tickets, $6. And she gave her the $6. They went to the snacks, and they got 2 popcorns, they got 2 drinks, and a couple of candies. And they're like, ringing up, like $13.20. And now, you know, so for $20, you had snacks and everything like that. I wish that would happen now. You can feel the vacuum of money coming out of your pocket as, you know, you walk into the theater.
You should do it the way you did when you were a kid. Just smuggle the stuff in.
Oh yeah, you know, trust me. You know.
Wear a big coat.
Yeah, just get your wife to carry one of those big purses.
Yeah, big bag.
All your snacks right there. You know, you see videos of people in there just eating full meals. Guys eating, you know, Big Mac in the theater, watching the theater. Yeah. You know, but, you know, you want to support, even though it's expensive. You know, you plan that out and say, you know, we're going to spend X amount of money. The next time we go to the movies is going to be next Wednesday when we go see the Ice Cream Man movie. And like I told people, they're like, why would you go see that? Because I like that stuff. I got, you know, tattoos all over me that are Jason, Freddy, Michael Myers, you know, vampires, and, you know, that's the stuff I like. And, you know, we're going to spend X amount of money. And I don't care if the movie's bad. You know how many bad movies people said the movie stuff that I absolutely love?
Yeah.
It's like, you know, the campier, the better. You know, Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Great movie. Just makes me laugh. That movie right there, you know. And, you know, Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. That was a movie that was filmed in San Diego. And when I was a kid, they said, if anybody wants to be in a movie, go out to the parking lot in this section. And there was a camera on one end and another camera about 100 feet away. And all the guy said was, there's a bunch of people out there in a crowd. And they said, just when we blow the horn, run from this point to this point. And then stop. And if we stopped, then they did it like 4 or 5 times, just going back and forth, back and forth. And there's a scene in the movie where you see a bunch of people running in a parking lot. That was the scene. I know I'm in there somewhere. I've never seen myself, but I know I was there somewhere. And but that's how they did it. It was like, I already ran, and that's Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. So I have that special edition because it's the dumbest movie in the world. Big tomato coming and running people over. Come on now, how can you not love that? How can you not love that? And those, the original movies that came out like that. I mean, there's movies that are so expensive now that in VHS, a graded movie, I can't even watch it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like when I go somewhere, if you own a business, I'd like you to know what you're doing. If you own a toy shop, I should be able to ask you about, a toy. And you should say, oh yeah, we have that right here. I went into a shop here locally, and he's like, hi, how you doing? I said, hi. I said, do you have any pre-code comic books? What's that? I just left. Because if you don't know what pre-code is and you own a comic book shop, you shouldn't be owning a comic book shop. I'm sorry.
Now, was that the owner or an employee?
That was the owner. But if you're an employee at a place, it's like working at McDonald's. Yeah, can I get a Big Mac? What's that? I want you to know what I'm buying here. I'm trying to buy something here. At least know that it's a pre-code something. And if you don't know the stuff, I mean, just don't open up a shop.
Yeah.
And the problem was,
no, you're just going to print money.
Well, people thought that in the 80s it was baseball card shops. All I got to do is open up a shop, put some boxes on the area on the shelves, and people will buy it. Now in the 80s you can get away with that because when I was doing shows in the 80s, I'd pay $20 to get a little table at the Scottish Rite. I put out a bunch of stuff on the table, and I'd walk out with $1,000 every Friday, once a month. $1,000 in '85 is a lot of money, just for a bunch of baseball cards, because people were buying everything. Didn't matter what it was, I want it, because that was the market. Comic books was the same way. When comics got big, people started buying comic books, thinking all I got to do is put some comics on a box, and the money's going to roll in. Well, no, because condition means something, knowledge means something. If you walk into a place and you're trying to buy something, don't you want the owner or the person working there to be able to answer your questions as it relates to the item that you're looking for, that they're supposed to specialize in?
And Axel Foley, the last American film with a
My camera.
intermission.
Am I back?
There you are.
Yeah, you're
Okay,
back.
there I am.
Up for a minute.
They shut me off already. Holy cow. And
Last American
I
film.
asked a blaxploitation. I said, do you have a blaxploitation commercial? And the person who worked there was black. Were you trying to be funny? I'm like, what are you talking about? Oh, blaxploitation. I said, it's blacks, BLAX. And it's just a section of movies that's actually taught at UCLA. The history of blaxploitation. And he's like, name one movie that's like that. I'm like, Shaft, Coffee, Friday Foster, The Mac, Cleopatra Jones,
Superfly.
Yeah.
all those. I said, that's blaxploitation. That's the genre of the movie. He's like, oh, it's like, yeah, you bite my head down. You work in a movie store. You don't even know the movie sections, and they're like, it's like someone says, horror movies. No, it's not horror movies. You have horror suspense. You have, slasher. You have all kinds of genres. People should know that. But a lot of people now who are selling these things don't understand that. And that also hurts the industry. If someone's trying to get into a hobby and they only have one option in their area, and they go there and they can't get, Last Dragon, sure enough, right? I love that movie. So there's nothing
I love
you can
that
say
movie.
about Last Dragon that I don't know. Remember his name? Bruce Leroy?
Bruce
That's right,
Leroy.
Bruce Leroy.
I
And
can
so-
watch that movie anytime.
They had a special steelbook, special edition. I was like, yeah, I'll take that. It was like,
Oh,
it's just
really?
funny. Oh
Mhm.
yeah, I love The Last Dragon. Barry Gordy's
Shown up
Last
is
Dragon.
hilarious. He shown up as a method actor, so he stayed. I can't remember his name. He stayed in character constantly.
Mhm.
So he, anytime anybody saw him through the whole filming, he was shown up, and
Oh,
he
yeah.
would act like that, and it was driving people crazy. But he really pulled it off. It was
That's how you
hilarious.
do it. The Harry Wizard, that the hair pushes the hair back as he's getting ready to fight. Speaking about staying in character, Daniel Day-Lewis did a movie called My Left Foot.
Oh my
Oh,
God, that
no.
is a heartbreaker.
Okay,
I
so
saw
you've seen
that
the
as
movie?
a kid.
You
Yes.
saw the movie. So
Yeah.
I found out that when he started the character of the
Mhm.
author, he stayed in character. The cast, the crew had to wheel him around. When it was lunch break, they had to feed him with a spoon because he stayed
Ooh.
in character. He never broke character. He lived like that during the entire filming. They'd wheel him to his hotel. They'd pick him up. They'd have to lift him to do things because he didn't want to break the character. But
Yeah.
that's why Daniel Day-Lewis is Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah, he's a
You
good
know?
method actor.
Yeah.
Well, if you saw Gangs in New York, the
Mhm.
famous scene where the guy says, what makes you an expert on this country? And he taps the eye with
Mhm.
the knife, the glass eye.
Mhm.
He had that made and put that on the outside of his eye
Mhm.
so he could do that.
Oh
He kept
God.
that on there during filming. And it was a piece of porcelain that went on that eyeball that he kept in there where he tapped it. It's like ting, ting, ting. It's like, he's a different monster.
Yeah.
Just like, Leonardo DiCaprio in was it Django?
Yeah.
Almost didn't take the role because of the amount of times the N-word was said. And he didn't want to do that. And it was Samuel Jackson who was like, no. It's a role. And because Leonardo DiCaprio stays in character, and Jamie Foxx told this great story that the first day of filming, the night before, Tarantino had said, look, when Leo comes on set, he's in character. So understand that when he comes here, he's going to be candy. And he got out of his car, was walking, Jamie Foxx, I see Leo, and I said, hey, what's up, fam? And he said, he looked at me like I was dirt and brushed right by me. And then Samuel pulled me aside and said, he sees you as property. That's his character. And that's how he's going to treat you. And that's like the scene with the hand. You know that scene, right?
Right.
Yeah, I
His
heard
hand,
about that.
and he really cut his hand.
Mhm.
That it bled, and he stayed in character. He didn't tell the actress that he was going to grab her face with that bloody hand. He did that. That look on her face when he grabs her and then wipes her face, that's his blood.
Mhm.
And she was horrified because she stayed in character. They said, look, he does things, you just got to stay with it. And then she said in an interview, I went into my trailer and cried that he did that. And then she said after the movie was done filming, great apology, all these roses, and tried to tell her, look, I was doing something that I thought that character would do in real life. And I'm sorry that it happened, but he says, sometimes I just go with things because they wanted to stop and he just kept going. They see him look when he cuts his hand and he starts moving it because he's like, okay, how can I use this in this scene? And that's just another one of those little things that when you watch the movie, it takes a totally different tour on it, a totally different take. And that's what makes things exciting.
Yeah.
That's why I like Criterion. Have you ever seen a Criterion Collection movie? It's like,
You
I
probably
have
didn't realize.
Oh.
I have Sid and Nancy on Criterion, and it's a great movie. That's a great movie about Sid Vicious and Nancy Spungen during the Sex Pistols. And it's like the movie's an hour and 20 minutes long, and the extra features is like 14 hours.
Oh.
Concerts, interviews, documentaries. Criterion adds tons of stuff. So I always try to buy Criterion movies because you're going to get all those little tidbits, those little pieces that you might not remember on great movies. And that's why, I know I ramble on about stuff, but I get passionate about certain things, and stuff like that just gets me going. That's what makes it fun, That's what makes the hobby fun for me, and it makes it
Oh,
fun
yeah.
for you. You guys wouldn't do this if you didn't have fun. Look at that big collection of stuff in the back. You know?
That's that's the comic racks
Yeah, I see that.
back there.
Yeah.
'Cause
It's amazing.
we wanted to display them like they would have looked in a store back in the day.
Oh.
And so I built the shelves for her. And
Yeah.
well, we got my half is down there, and then her half is right here.
Yeah.
And it's
Is that
the
a real
same-
shock suspense story?
No, that's the EC reprints. I just
Okay.
bought an actual original one 2 weeks ago at a show. The guy had it on the wall, and I just asked how much it cost.
Mhm.
I was like, nah, I'll never be able to afford it. So I was happy with just owning an EC reprint.
Sure.
He told me the price, and I was shocked. So of course I had to ask for a deal.
He never
Yeah.
he never checked the condition because he was afraid to open it because he thought it looked brittle.
Yeah.
And so of course when I got it home, I opened it up and it's actually in really nice shape.
You gotta.
Yeah.
People don't realize.
Yeah.
I had
You gotta
when I
print
would
that
sell
stuff.
EC books, I would put
Mhm.
detailed notes on the back of those old books because I would
Yeah.
not let people open them. And I said
Yeah.
they would look, and people knew that about me. So they would
Mhm.
ask, "Can I take this out?" No, you cannot. It's 1950. That book is 1951. It's a 2.5, and because they'll take it out and they'll do this, or
Yeah.
the pages are now falling like a parade. You know, you have to. It's white gloves. It's careful. It's page by page.
Yeah.
It's slow. It's because I know you've probably seen this with older pre-code books. Sometimes people don't take care of them. You take them out of the bag, and there's like 4 little pieces of comic books still in the bag.
Yeah.
Just
Ugh.
chips off. You know, so
Mhm.
no, I would get a book like that. I would grade the book myself. I put it in, halfbacks with Mylar,
Mhm.
detailed notes, and that's how you bought it. You buy it from me because I don't want you to take the book out, detach something from it, and I don't want it. That's not going to work that way. That's the price. That's the grade. And I would sell tons of books like that because they're not going to question it. They're not going to question my grade because they know
Yeah.
it was very accurate. And that's another thing. It's integrity. There's too many people that don't have integrity in things, whether you're selling toys or they try to push things off as being authentic when it's not authentic.
Yeah.
If a person has integrity and treats people well, his business will grow.
Yeah. And unfortunately, with the 3D marketing, the 3D market,
Oh boy.
3D printing in toys, they'll push something off. Oh yeah, this is 100% complete,
Oh, but
but it has 3D printed parts and its figure is 3D printed, or sometimes they try not to even tell you that a part is 3D printed.
Then guess what? That's not complete.
Exactly.
That's
no.
like saying this comic book is beautiful, it's complete, but it's missing pages 8 through 11. That's not complete.
No, I can't stand the 3D printed stuff, and it's brittle and it's bad quality, and I'm finding more and more of that in toys
Yeah.
where certain pieces or parts have been. You can tell if you know what to look for, and I'm like, oh no, wait a minute, like I'm seeing a lot of Godzillas now, replacement switch. It's not an authentic switch on the back of the head for the for the Shogun Godzilla. And I'm like, that's a 3D printed switch. Is it? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you should know because you probably did it.
Yeah,
but
probably.
Again, that's where you have integrity. If you buy from somebody that you know has integrity and wouldn't do something like that, or says original Godzilla switch 3D print replacement.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Now you make the determination if you want to buy it or not.
Yeah.
Because the thing that happens if someone doesn't know and they want to pay big money thinking, oh, I got this beautiful Godzilla or whatever, and then it's not real, then they're like, well, I want to do this. People are just thieves. And you now push somebody away from the market. You push
Yeah.
somebody away from the collecting industry, which hurts the industry.
Mhm.
I had said this before. Las Vegas, for the size of the town that it is, the city that it is, we have great comic book shop options.
Mm.
We really do. But there are some that don't have any integrity. They don't take care of their books. They don't take care of their books. They don't care about the customers. I only mentioned the 3 shops that I will ever go to because whether they like each other, they don't like each other. Again, if you have good, honest shops, like, we have a toy thing here, Rogue Toys.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a lot of vintage toys. And they're open and honest about, what it is. You go on Rogue Toys, you can buy something, know that it's going to be authentic. Because if it isn't authentic, they're going to tell you. It's not real, it's not this. And that's all anybody wants. If I want to spend something and it's missing a piece, then let me make the decision if I want to pay the money. I might still buy it, but don't say that it's complete and you take it home and it's not complete. Don't say it's not open and it's been opened.
Mm-hmm.
Because a buddy of mine had bought something. They have a guy, he bought it was a monster model, and they said complete. It was from 1968. It was like a Wolfman, and he was like, "Oh, absolutely, I want that." And he paid good money for it because he always wanted one. And he was going to put it together. He was going to build it himself.
Mm-hmm.
Opened up the plastic and opened it up, and the pieces were already taken apart.
Mm.
And I'm like, well, they would come attached to that because you'd have to
Yeah,
get like
give
a
them a
little
tree.
razor knife and you would cut it off to make sure it was close. And it was a whole process to do it. And he contacted the guy and said, you said it was sealed, and I opened it, but it's already been opened up. Well, I sealed it. Well, you didn't tell me that. Am I supposed to? Well, you said it was authentic and sealed. That's not sealed. You rewrapped it. That's the stuff that hurts.
Yes.
Yeah, he had a place where there's comic shops that sell things on eBay and they sell like a compendium book or something like that, and then they wrap it in plastic to make sure it doesn't open up and things like that. They have those machines. This guy was buying toys, wrapping them up, and saying, it's authentic and it's unsealed. It's sealed, but it's not sealed. Well, it is sealed. I sold it to you sealed. You sealed it. When you say something's been sealed, it means it's never been opened.
Yeah.
It was on the shelf at Kmart in 1968 when it was bought, and it hasn't been opened since I opened it in 2026.
Yeah.
That's sealed to me.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't have a lot of toy shows here in town. The few I've been to, you can tell the people that are honest, the people that, you would buy from. And some people you're like, kind of sketchy. You can kind of see by a person's booth, no matter what it is, whether it's, old ceramic plates or comics or baseball cards or whatever, or sports cards, you can see a person who's kind of shady. They did reprints of some Star Wars cards years ago where they repacked them and sold them like that. And this guy was selling the cards as the 77 Series 1 version. It's like, but it's not 77. It is 77. And I flip one of the cards over and says, that why it says, 2004? It says 2004 right there. How's that 1977? Do we have a time machine here or something like that? You got to take all this stuff off the shelves because he got, pointed out as being someone who's not good. And you see that in any industry.
Yeah.
Anything. People will scam you for $1. So when you're spending your hard-earned money on something that you love, you want to make sure you're buying from somebody that's honest. Or at least the person will say, I opened it, it wasn't open, or it was open, it was missing a piece. I will take that back. Is there anything else you want me to give you a refund? That's an owner, that's an honest person, And if you don't know, say I don't know. And then you guys can do, a check together and see if that's what it is. And just you got to be honest. And that's what's hurting the industry. Too many unhonest people just trying to make a lot of money. You talked about it with the 3D printing.
Yeah.
That's all, because you can print anything on a 3D.
Yeah.
The little GI Joe guns and Ninja Turtle staffs and things like that, and say, look at it's real. No, it's not real. And it just gets really bad. It does that with coins and coin collecting, all that stuff. And Axel's right. There's a lot of people who have no conscience anymore, and that's another thing that hurts the industry. That's another thing that makes it unfun. But I think the ones that are going to stick around and last are the ones that do it for the love of it.
Yeah.
A true comic book store owner loves comic books. Anybody who says, I don't read comics a lot, you're just in it for the money. So now you don't care. You don't care about the condition. You don't care about how you sew things. You don't care about what your customers want. You don't have the answers that the customers are looking for. I am no way an expert on anything toys. I know toys that I like as a kid that I would like to get, or things that are cool. Like I saw a lunchbox for Sigmund the Sea Monster. Sigmund and the Sea Monster. I loved Sigmund and the Sea Monsters. As a kid, I got a Sigmund shirt and I found a lunchbox, Sigmund and the Sea Monster. And the guy told me, I didn't know a lot about it. I looked at it, it was metal and I had everything I wanted on there. And they're like, yeah, you know, this and that. And then I took it home and someone's like, oh yeah, that's like a 2001 reprint. I'm like, I'm like, really? Because that's, when I was starting to do that, and I was like, oh, I'd like to go to that lunchbox. And I didn't know enough to do that. You can blame me for not knowing enough to know that. But at the same time, I shouldn't have been told, oh, yeah, that's from the 70s. That's from 74, whatever it was, 75. And I was like, well, okay. And I just took him for his word because he had all these lunchboxes. Yeah. And I figured, okay, this guy, knows what he's talking about. Well, he got me.
No, he didn't.
I went back the next day and told him this is not real. And he was like, what? He said, oh, I thought that was the vintage one right there. You can give me the vintage one and take back your reprint or give me money back. And then he's like, well, I said, you just give me my money back. I won't buy anything from you again because of that. Because he had a lot of nice lunchbox, Evel Knievel and, 1 out of 12 and Emergency, just the great 70s lunchboxes.
Oh, wow.
But that hurts the industry. And that's another downfall of the industry. If you're not going to make 100 times profit, I want to pay $1 and get $100 back on it. People walk away from it, and then it hurts the industry. It hurts the people who run it as a business. Hurts people who make their living doing this, and then it takes 5, 6, 7 years for it to get exciting again. But how many lives have you ruined because you're trying to make the fast buck and you're hurting the industry on that? I mean, it's okay if you go to a shop that's going out of business and get the 50% off sale and get what you can, but that's someone's livelihood because they didn't know anything about it, or B, got used by people trying to make the fast book by ordering a bunch of stuff and never picking it up. People don't realize if you order 50 books from me, I have to pay for those 50 books.
Yeah.
Granted at a discount, but if I'm spending $100 on the books that you want and you never pick them up, that's $100 I might not ever get back. And people just don't care.
Yeah.
People just don't care. And, I'd like to see it get back to where people, when you went to comic conventions in the earlier 70s and early 80s, especially the big San Diego Comic-Con, everybody there loved it. Now preview night is, can I get the pops that are limited that I can sell on eBay that night? When you see preview night, go on eBay that evening, late that evening, and you're going to see 2026 San Diego Comic-Con exclusives, and there'll be 3,000 things up there because it's not by collectors who want to keep it. It's by people who buy to get in there, pay people to stand in line with them, and buy tons of this stuff. It was General Mills. They had the Blueberry Pop, and they had Count Chocula and Frankenberry, and they were the silver shiny ones. We bought them because we liked them, and we paid like $20 for them. Each, like the metal ones. I thought that was cool. Next day you're looking at it and that thing's selling for $600 because they were so limited. And I'm like, geez, what is this? And I liked it because I used to like Frankenberry because it was a Frankenstein monster and had strawberry ice cream or strawberry candy in it. Hey, why would you not like Frankenberry?
Yeah, the pop market was that's part of what ruined the pop market.
That is
too much product, too much flipping.
Yeah,
it seemed like nobody really cared about the stuff. People had stuff they didn't know what they had because they had so much because it's so heavily oversaturated.
Oh,
I've done several videos on the Funko. People got mad at me, but everything I said has happened now.
Pops, yeah. See, you can see the future like I did with the grading. You can see the Funko Pop future. I have Funko Pops, but it's all horror themed Funko Pops.
Yeah.
Because I like that. I don't care what the price is. And you're right. They make Funko Pops for everything. We have a homeless guy who lives out by Target. I saw him one day, gave him a couple of dollars. I went back the next day and they had a Funko Pop of him sitting on the shelf. I mean, they make a Funko Pop out of everything. I'm kidding. Get Barry the Bum Funko Pop exclusive.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Boxcar Willie.
There you
Yeah.
go. You might as well get whatever you can, right? They just try to make something out of everything. And it's, like I said, if you collect things because you really like it, then all those pops are great for you. But if you're just chasing it, and if you go to places like Target, Walmart, where they have like their own exclusives, if you look at those toy sections that they have there, those boxes are destroyed because people just rip through them real quick looking for certain things and just leave the things on the shelf. But now you've ruined the box for somebody who wants it.
Yeah.
Okay, you've ruined it for somebody who really wants it. Thank you for that, for ruining that for me. I just want to be sure that, I get something, because I'm whether it's a toy. I ordered a Killer Clown figure to finish my set, and one of them had like a big scratch on the bubble. I said, well, I can't have this one. Why not? It's like, it's got a scratch on the bubble. What does that matter? It matters to me, because I'm displaying these. I want to make sure that the bubbles look nice. Because you go to some places and you like pick up the toy and the bubble comes off because the glue has. It's like, I don't want that. I'm not going to just re-glue it. I don't want to re-glue it. I have now altered that toy, which is something I'm totally against. So I'm not going to do that. Is it Pez used to, Pez.
Oh, yeah.
Pez stands for big. I just like the
Well,
candy.
they did the same thing. They oversaturated the market, Pez, because it used to be a simple thing. And when it was a simple thing, that made it special. And that's why the vintage ones still sell for so much now.
Sure.
But as you got into the 90s and on, it just Pez got carried away with itself too, and they made Pez of every freaking thing, and they're all over the place, and it's just kind of
with anything. When
Yeah.
something is popular, everybody jumps in the market, and then it oversaturates it. And then people say, "I'll make money on this," and it doesn't. Then you go to a yard sale and how much is your Pez dispenser? 25 cents, because they just want to get rid of the stuff now because they think that I'll just buy anything that's a collectible and hold on to it for a few years in order to make a lot of money on it. And when it doesn't happen, you find a lot of that stuff just getting blown out. You'll find things that nobody wants and you get it for nothing. And, people say, well, that's good for the collector. Yeah, but it's bad for the industry.
Yeah.
Because then you lose people who want to collect. And, a true collector shouldn't have to fight speculators for books. Now, the shops here in town, for the most part, when new books come out, they'll give you one. You're allowed to have one. If the books are still there the following week on Monday, which gives them 5 days to sell them, if they haven't sold, you can take whatever you want. But the day of release, you get one, unless you have pre-ordered books, because that gives everybody an opportunity to get a book. Because what happens is, before they started doing that, a guy would go in for a hot book. Berserker one was a good thing about it. Berserker, Keanu Reeves coming off the John Wick big thing and everything. And there were people walk in, they grab 20 books off the shelf. I'll just take the entire stack because I want to make money on this Keanu Reeves book. I'm going to make money on this. I'm going to make money on that. The real person who wanted it couldn't get it, so the shops were like, you know what, you can have one. I'll give you one, then you can come back next week if you want more. Well, I'm not going to come back because by the time I get it up on eBay at that point, there's already a bunch on eBay and they're selling already.
Yeah.
They just want to make the fast money. They want to buy it for $3.99, $4.99, and sell it for $20, sell it for $25. Plus their shipping. So they're trying to make a quick, $15 profit, which to me, making $15 isn't worth the aggravation of going to a shop, buying the stuff, putting it up on eBay, having to ship it. It's not worth it to me.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to keep it for myself. And because I'm not going to do that. I never sold comics on eBay. And I sold cards on eBay because it was easy. I could put a little bubble mailer, boom. This was in the early 2000s. But I stopped doing that because I had a Patrick Waugh hockey card that was autographed by Patrick Waugh. And I want your card. It was like $300 because he doesn't sign anything. If you know anything about hockey, he was a goalie, Hall of Fame goalie. And I sent him the card, insured, had to do the thing that to go over a border because I was going to Canada. And he got the card and said, this isn't the card I was looking for. You scammed me, this and that. I want my money back. I'm going to send you your card back. I'm like, Okay, so he reported me to eBay, and he sends back a card, and he sends me a Looney Tunes card.
Mm.
And I told eBay, this is what he sent me back. And I recorded myself opening the package.
Mm-hmm.
And I told eBay, you gave him back his money, but he sent me this. And I have a record of me opening the package that he sent me and pulling the card out. And eBay said, well, how do we know that's the card he sent you back? Well, how do you know he didn't keep the card that I sent him, but you gave him his money back? And then eBay sided with him, and I never sold another thing on eBay after that. Ever. I was like, forget it. I'm not, because eBay sides with the buyer. There's a guy, there's a guy who did a video, and that's another bad thing for this, because people just stop selling stuff. eBay sides with the buyer more than the seller. The seller could be having a big store and have, a 50,000, rating, reviews, but they're going to side with the guy who's bought 2 things, and they're going to believe him and not the guy who's got a 5-star review, record on that. And that's horrible. Another example was, remember the Miles Morales book came in the black bag? I sold one of those and sent it to the guy, saw that he got it. And that's when the Miles Morales was through the roof, and I bought a bunch of those just to have it. And I told him, I had right there, it's sealed. If you open it, all bets are off. I cannot guarantee the grade because it's a sealed black poly bag.
Mm-hmm.
Buys the book, sends the book, gets the book. I see he signed for it. He immediately calls me like 30 minutes later and says, hey, I opened that book and it's got a crease, a printing crease from the bag. They had, where they sealed the bag, it would cause a little mark on it. Mm-hmm. And he said, so it's not going to be a 9.8. I want my money back. I said, but you opened the bag. It says right there in my listing, if you open the bag, all bets are off. No, I want my money back. Complained to eBay. It said he opened the bag. That's not, it says right there. They gave him his money back. And I said, okay, send me the book back. He sent me the book back and the crumpled up bag. And so I did a video on him on my YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
Gave the name of the guy, what his buying thing was. He immediately contacted me. Take me off the video. I'm like, why? You scammed me. And it cost me $325. You scammed me. Well, he sent me all my money back. And he's like, please don't, take me off. I'll give you your money back. Because he knew what he did. He said, I've been trying to buy things. No one's selling to me anymore because of your video. It's like, well, that's your problem. That sounds like a you problem, not a me problem. Because my viewers, when it comes to this hobby and this industry, whether it's toys, movies, or, comics like we've talked about, if you follow music, someone had made a comment and said, when you say something on a video, you have viewers that are just brutal with the person that you're talking about. And he said, your fans are like Slayer fans. They're just brutal. They will just hunt you out. And I was like, well, that's a good thing then, because people leave me alone. I don't want, and like I say in all my videos, everything we talk about, whether I talk about on the channel with you guys, which I'm real happy to do because I love your channel. I love talking to you guys. It's my opinion. It doesn't matter if you agree with it. You don't have to agree with it. And that's why I said, the great thing about this country is you can speak your mind without fear of someone kicking down your door.
Yeah.
And that's what makes this great. We can all have our opinions. We can agree to disagree, but it's not the end of the world. And, I wish more people understood that we got a good thing going on here. And you can do a lot of things that you can't do in other parts of the world. I've been all over the world when I was in the military. And believe me, there's a lot of things you can't do in certain places.
Yeah.
So that's, there's that right there. But, do you have any more questions for me?
No, that's
as I've talked your ear off and rattled off things. And...
No, we enjoy we enjoyed the conversation and everything and going on about the the comics and the grading, because that's a really big thing that's going on now. And I'd want to talk about it. I know you might have to go, and maybe if you come back again about, because we were talking about people scamming in toys, but you see it in grading, and I saw video of people switching the books in the slabs
Mm-hmm.
and how that had become a thing. And it's just, opportunists will take an opportunity every time they get, and a scammer is going to scam because that's what they're going to do. But it just seems like, how do you get around all of that? And I guess that's, again, maybe a conversation for another day. I
Well,
know you might have to go.
no,
Oh, go ahead.
I can touch bases on that. That
Mhm,
started with CGC. The books click in a CGC case. You know that, right? You shake them, you can hear it go click, click, click.
mhm,
CGC wraps their books like everybody else does in a plastic when they slide it into the case. People realize that if you look at the CGC cases, you can pull them apart a little bit on the side. On the side areas, the old cases,
mhm.
you can pull them apart. Now, you can't do that so much because they've kind of fixed most of that. But back in the day, I could open up the side of the case, I can pull the book out, and let's say I have one book that's a 9.6 graded, and I have another one that's an 8.5. Well, I'm going to take the 8.5 out of the 8.5 case, and I'm going to slide it in the 9.6 case, and I'm going to take the 9.6 book out and keep it for myself. And they just lay it down again. It looks like nothing happened. That's what started that. There was a person doing that with a lot of books, where he was manipulating the grading market by getting multiple books of the same thing or, done. And if he liked a certain grade, he wanted to keep the higher grade for himself, and he would switch cases and put the lower graded book in the case and just send that one as a 9.6, because people look at the book and say, this is a 9.8 because CGC says it's a 9.8. So they don't question what it has on it. They won't question it. CGC says this is what it is, so that's what it's going to be. Well, no, that's not the case. But if you believe that, then you're part of the problem, because if you know how to grade a book, when I get a book graded or I buy a graded book, I can look at it and see if it's a legitimate grade. You can check on the outside. If you're going to tell me that book is a 9.6 and it's got 50 spine ticks on it, chances are that book was changed. And unfortunately, when it comes to money, especially big money vintage books in high grade, that became an issue. And that kind of turned some people off, like, well, am I actually getting the grade that I want? And CGC would always say, well, no, our cases don't do that. Well, your cases do that, because there's videos of people pulling books out of the case and showing how easy it is to do without damaging the case. And so what you're doing is, there's always going to be someone out there who's like, hey, I can make money doing that. That's happening right now with patch cards. There was a seller on eBay on baseball cards they've talked
Heard
about.
that.
Yeah, so what he does is he gets, and he's an idiot, and I'll tell you why he's an idiot. They have jersey cards that you can pull the jersey out of a card. If you have, a Los Angeles Charger, and they're wearing their blue uniform, you might get a piece of jersey that's blue on the card. So he's taking the cards, he's taking that blue jersey out. He's buying fake jerseys that are stitched that you can get in China for $12. And he's cutting them up, and he's taking now a real nice piece of the jersey, maybe a multicolor part of a lightning bolt or something, and he's putting it in that card. And he's selling it as a patch. But what tells me that he's an idiot is a guy did a thing from the Comic-Con, and he said, or from the San Diego Sports Card Convention, and he said, here's this card 6 months ago, and it's a blue patch, card 12 of 25, serial numbered from the factory. And here is a card that sold 2 weeks ago with this amazing patch that had a piece of a bird on it from the uniform. That's a beautiful patch. and it's card 12 of 25. What happened to the blue patch on that card 6 months ago?
Hmm.
How did it go from blue? Did it just, manifest into a beautiful patch card? The difference was the one card was sold for $6 and the patch was sold for $140.
Hmm.
So that's what he's doing. If I can spend $12 on a jersey, buy a bunch of cheap patch cards, cut the jerseys up, put whatever pieces in there I want, and play it off as a patch card, I'm going to make a fortune. And he has made a fortune doing it, but he's been caught now.
Hmm.
And so now he's done. Because if you're going to do something like that, certainly don't get a serial numbered card and do it. But that's just like comic book. They'll manipulate the book. If an action event, if a vintage comic has an X in the corner because they did that and it was a certain grade, and he took it out of that low grade and put it in a high grade slab, but it has the same X. That's the same book. Don't tell me it's an 8 when I saw that same book with the same marking on it as a 3. But people do that because they figure I can get away with it for 6, maybe 8 weeks before I get caught, but I'm going to make X amount of money before I do it. And all you have to do, unfortunately, is I'm Arkham Comics Las Vegas. I'm selling bad stuff. I'm cheating people, blah, blah, blah. And I get caught and they kick me off. Well, I'll come back as Sin City Comics. Oh, it's a different guy because it's Sin City Comics. All you got to do is change your name.
Yeah.
That's what they do. They change their name. And that's the bad thing. And because you have, again, when there's money involved, criminality is going to be involved.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. And it's like that through history. That's just the way it is. Like I told you, they took away liquor in the, during Prohibition. Who made the money? The gangsters. I don't care if it's against the law. I'm bringing in that Irish whiskey, and they made millions of dollars. You take away the ability to get something, someone is going to get you that item at a marked up price and make money on it. It's like that with goods, services. They have things now with the gold bars are so expensive now. They have people who will take a silver bar, they'll dip it in they'll melt down gold, they'll dip a silver bar into gold so the outer layer is gold, and they'll try to sell it off as a gold bar. Well, the difference in an ounce of silver, I'll buy an ounce of silver for $100. I'll put $10 worth of gold on the outside, and I'm going to sell it for $3,200 because that's the going market for gold. And not everybody, people who buy bars like that, not everybody takes it to a place and has it cut in half or melted down. I'm going to buy this gold bar at $3,000 because in 5 years it's going to be $8,000, and I'm going to make all that money. But then when they take it, when they're ready to, what's the first thing they do? They cut a little thing into it to make sure the purity of the gold. And they're going to say, "Oh, you got all this silver in there. This isn't a gold bar. That's worth $100. That's the price of silver." And that's those are money makers, and people make a lot of money doing that stuff, and that's a shame of doing it. And that's just it's like the marijuana market now. Marijuana used to be cheap. You have to buy from somebody else to get it. And when they made it legal, why did they make it legal? Because now the government can make money off of it.
Yeah, they can take.
We have tons of dispensaries here in Nevada, and they all got to pay a state Nevada tax. But the thing about that is, which I always thought was just begging for trouble, was because it's not legal throughout the country. If you own a dispensary, it's cash only, which means you're going to have hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of cash in that shop because you can't use a bank account because it's illegal to take money for an illegal substance in certain parts and put it in the bank. So you got to find other ways to do that. And that's the bad thing right there. There are some banks that will take dispensary money, but you just can't walk up and swipe your Bank of America card at the dispensary, get $50 worth of gummies and think that you're okay but the government found a way to make money on that. We're going to make money on that. We're going to charge you huge tax fees to have your dispensary. So, people doing shady things like you're switching out the books and stuff like that with the grading books. is this. It's been going on for a long time. People switch anything out just try to make money on it, and unfortunately, that's never going to go away. It'll never go away. You're seeing it now. You talked about with the 3D printing on the toys, it's right there, and that's always going to be there. They have fake VHS tapes. They have, they're buying VHS tapes and you're sealing it, but a lot of people don't know this. VHS tapes get mold.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen mold on a VHS tape?
Mm-hmm.
Take the tape out, look at the tape. If it's got white speckles on it, you have mold on that tape and it's no good. So people are doing that and they're resealing it saying it's a real thing. You can get stickers, the old stickers that used to put across the movie that you had to cut to get into the movie. And you can get those, you can make those and they'll just put it on there and say, this is vintage Star Wars, 1980, whatever. And they'll sell it as a vintage thing. And then you'd open it up and it's, a Tickle Me Elmo video that's got mold, but you've already sold it and you can't do nothing about it. Because there's things like that. There's the boxer, the kid who collects the Pokemon cards. And he wore a Charizard that was like a $3 million card around his neck. Mm-hmm. He bought a case of first edition Pokemon cards. And he had this big thing where he's going to open it up. And he's opening up the stuff and he's like, here we go. And they break the seal of the case. And he takes his first pack out and he's like, I'm so excited because he's a first edition. Let's get that Charizard. Let's get that 10. He opens it up and they're packs of G.I. Joe.
Oh, wow.
They took a whole case of cards. They kept the boxes. They sealed it back up. They sold it as a case of first edition Pokemon. 20 boxes. And they were all G.I. Joe cards.
Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy.
Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. And I said the same thing. I did my diligence, this and that. And it was like, oh my God. And they couldn't do nothing. Because all the guy said was, well, it was what we said it was. And they must have opened it from the bottom and taken all the boxes out. Because when you get a case, you look at the top seal. If you cut it from the bottom, chances are they're not going to flip the case over and look at it.
Yeah.
Now, the only people that are really good, if you want to buy vintage packs of cards or boxes, Baseball Card Exchange.
Mm-hmm.
They do so much due diligence, and they have 100% money back guarantee if you open that up and it is not what they say it is. They'll give you your money back. And it comes wrapped in a case and it says right all over it, Baseball Card Exchange. Gives you the date that it was checked, who checked it, and everything. And that's how you buy. If you see a lot of the really good, high-grade, unopened boxes, especially like non-sports cards, it's going to say Baseball Card Exchange. Because everybody's sending it there. They don't charge an arm and a leg to do that. And if a person sees Baseball Card Exchange, I'm going to buy that because, they've checked it and I know it's going to be legitimate. And that's just how it is. You got to be careful. Like I said, you got to find people with integrity because not everybody has integrity. Not everybody's fair. Not everybody's honest. And that's the bad thing about it. And, there's that right there. So I know we were 2.5 hours. So time flies when I'm talking to you two. It's like it's not like going to the dentist. But if anybody wants to watch my channel, Arkham Comics Las Vegas on YouTube, just Arkham Comics Las Vegas. I do videos every week, and I talk about toys, comics, movies. Yeah, like it's right there under my name, Arkham Comics Las Vegas. And, subscribe to the channel. I don't make money on it. I just, like to get out there to as many people as I can, and do that. But I love doing this with you guys. I'd like to do more.
Sure.
Yeah.
With stuff, whether it's movies or whatever it is you guys want to talk about, because like I said, if it comes to movies, cards, comics, toys, not as much toys, but if you want to talk about movies, I got movies. I got all kinds of movies. Steel books and special editions. Why? Because I have a sickness, is what I said. I have a sickness. I can't help it. I think the last time I checked, I had 27 versions of the original Halloween.
Oh, wow.
Because every version has something different on it. I mean,
really?
The movie version was different than the television version because they had to cut out the nuded parts on the movie version. So they had scenes that they were going to cut out of the original movie that they added. One of them is the famous scene where Laurie Strode is in her room and sees Michael Myers.
Mm-hmm.
in the neighbor's yard. Now that gets incorporated in a lot of the versions, but that was originally not in the original movie. That was a made-for-TV part to add to the television production. Sees Michael Myers in the backyard and things like that, because you can see great deleted scenes. You know, if you look at that, there's a lot of great scenes. If you've seen the special editions on The Godfather, the deleted scenes that they took out are Academy Award-winning scenes. Just amazing scenes that, you know, you're like, how did you cut that out of the movie? How did you cut that out of the movie?
I thought that about Groundhog Day. There's a lot of the deleted scenes from Groundhog Day really kind of add to it.
Yeah.
But they I guess they just needed the time.
You know, the two things that surprised me. Do you ever see the movie Seven?
Yes. I
You know,
saw it. I remember.
You know what the original ending was, right?
No, because I only ever saw the one with the box.
Yeah, well, that's that. They're both the same up to that point. Original ending was where Brad Pitt, you know, he trying to figure out what's in the box. We all know what's in the box because you saw the blonde hair.
Yeah.
Well, he sits there, and remember, Morgan Freeman is telling him, "Don't shoot him. If you shoot him, he wins. You finish his masterpiece." Because he was the seventh deadly sin, which was vengeance. So it goes to the whole thing where he's, you know, here, no. In the movie, Brad Pitt kills the guy. And Morgan Freeman has that sad look. The original ending, what has Brad Pitt walking up like this? He's going to shoot him with the gun. And before he does, he looks at him and he kills himself.
Oh, God.
And the killer starts yelling, "No, it doesn't end that way. This isn't the way it ends." And Morgan Freeman grabs him and says, "You lose. That you lose." That was the original ending. People thought, well, I don't like that ending. You know, I love that ending because he doesn't finish his masterpiece. You kill him. He finishes seven sins, the deadly sins. The original ending was so great, but they took it out, and you can find it once in a while, but it's hard to find. And the other one was a movie with Tom Cruise. I think it was it Collateral, where Jamie Foxx was his taxi driver all night. Well, remember at the end, Jamie Foxx kills Tom Cruise. In the middle of the movie, Tom Cruise makes a comment to him, "Why do you do this?" And he says, "Because I always get my man." So the scene, Jamie Foxx shoots him, and Tom Cruise falls. Then him and the female, I can't think of her name. Maybe it was Jada Pinkett. Was it Jada Pinkett maybe? And they are walking to where they're getting on the train to go away. And they turn around, and there's Tom Cruise standing there. Kills her, shoots Jamie Foxx in the upper chest, and he falls. Tom Cruise walks over to him, and he looks at him with the gun in his hand, and he tells him, "I told you, I always get my man." And the end of the movie is a gun flash where you know he shot him in the head. And that's how the movie ended. So Tom Cruise wins, not Jamie Foxx. And they cut these things out. You're like, why did you cut that out? That's such a great scene. Like The Exorcist, where the girl walks down the stairs backwards.
Yeah.
That was cut out of the theatrical releases because it scared people so bad that they took it out. You see that scene in special editions.
Yeah.
But I watched this great documentary, and the director was like, we showed it in the theaters, and when she comes down the stairs, people just screamed and ran out of the theater. It scared them so bad. So we had to cut that out. And that's one of the best scenes in the movie, where she comes backwards like a spider.
Yeah.
I mean, trust me, if I saw that, I'd run out of the house. But I mean, for a movie standpoint, it's great.
Yeah, it's fine.
So if you ever want to talk movies, you just let me know. You know how to reach me. So
yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
All right. So I guess
Thank you
with that,
so much.
we'll start wrapping up. Special thanks to Logic Blaster and to Stone Sour, who made donations to our kitty fund, our shelter cats. We appreciate it.
Nice.
Thanks to we take care of you. You probably heard us talk about that before. We take care of like wounded, lost, stray cats. Special thanks, of course, to Daniel from Arkham Comics.
Yes.
Please do find him on YouTube. Check him out.
Yes.
And thank you, everyone else, for joining us this evening. Hope you had a good time. And we will try to do this again sometime soon.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks, guys, as always.
Yes.